Between now and up to 6 o'clock, we've got a period called open forum, and I've got 3 cards already. If you so desire to speak during open forum, there's blue cards available up here at the lectern. There should be some right outside the double doors in the back here, or the clerk will have some extra ones over here. Just fill those out and with your name and address and other information. Thank you. Mr. Marlon Mueller. Welcome back, Mr. Mueller. This may be the last time we get to face each other at a public meeting, so.
It's been fun.
It has been fun. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Marlon Mueller. I'm with Occupy Pensacola. We're working for better government. About a month and a half ago, we had our 1-year anniversary, and between everything happening, I didn't really get a chance to let you guys know how it went, and I wanted to say a few things about what we've done over the past year and stuff. My experience out here in the encampment and sleeping on the pavement in the rain, in the cold, I'm an inside guy. I like it soft and easy, and that was tough. It was very tough for me and anybody that could stand it. Some things that made it nice was the police in this town dealt with the occupiers in the encampment excellently. Professionally, Chief Simmons and everybody from the top down has treated me and everybody that I saw with great respect. We do a lot of things that people don't realize. We meet once a week. We have a community garden, which we this last year donated around a half a ton of vegetables. And we try to do things to, to make it a better place to live while we are, focusing on what we see as a, as a blemish on government. Those things, when you, anytime that there's a person or people that single out themselves or others for gain, that is not good governing. We are interested in the people, getting what's best for all of the people, and. In that light, I would like to once again reiterate and ask where the mayor is tonight. The charter is very clear that he should be here, and I'm doing something about it, since nobody here seems to have the will or the ability to. I would like to see this group discuss it, and put it as a topic for the next CAL. I think it's important to hold all political figures, elected or appointed, to what they are set to do. What in this instance, what the charter sets them to do, and it's very clear. The mayor should be here. Anyway, other than that, for the ones that won't be here next time. I want to say congratulations, but thank you for serving.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, it'll be Mr. Weiss, Ms. Myers, and Mr. Geralds.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted to say I'm glad to see Mr. Mueller is feeling better. I realize his dedication to his cause, as he was feeling so poorly last time and still came. And you are soft-spoken yet determined, and probably one of the most sensible people I have heard from in my 4 years on council. So thank you for continuing to speak up. That's all, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Myers?
Yes, and I too wanted to thank Mr. Mueller for all of the nights and times you've been down to the Committee of the Whole and here to the City Council. I have a great deal of respect for you and all of the citizens who come down here to try to make our government a good government and to make it responsive to the citizens, which is our utmost responsibility, and I thank you for your efforts in that regard.
Yes, Mr. Geralds.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I too wish to thank Mr. Mueller for his interest in equality and moving forward as a city. And I can say, Mr. Mueller, that you're sort of getting a taste of what we went through as African Americans, not just in this city, but in America. And I encourage you to continue your work and as much as you can do, all that you can do to try to level things out. Thank you always for being here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. And thank you, sir. Mr. Alistair McKenzie. Welcome, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I'm Alistair McKenzie, as some of you may know, maybe all of you, I don't know. I have something serious to talk about, but the first thing I just wanted to note for people who haven't been here in a while, because I hadn't been here in a few weeks, is there's now a metal detector outside of City Hall that you now have to go through to enter. To me, it's just really kind of strange that all of a sudden citizens have to go through a metal detector to get into City Council. It's a little bit strange, and it feels a little bit oppressive to me. But I'm here on another more serious matter. As y'all know, I was the attorney for Occupy Pensacola, and as you may or may not know, they were just summarily dismissed out of court by Judge Vinson. The matter's been appealed. I received a phone call from the city attorney shortly thereafter stating that if my clients were to continue to pursue the appeal, the city would seek attorney's fees against them. Apparently these attorney's fees, although I haven't seen the invoices or looked at his hours, are amounting to approximately $100,000 with costs. My clients felt that they had a right to go to court to try and have their rights vindicated, at least to have a court weigh and judge them. Whether that was done appropriately at this point, I can't say. It's going to be appealed. I also believe my clients fully have a right to appeal and to have the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals make a decision on what's occurred here. That's how our judicial system works. Also, our system of constitutional and civil rights in this country is based off of this statute called Section 1983. It's basically what's considered a mini attorney general kind of statute. It's a way for citizens to have private attorneys attempt to try and help them have their rights vindicated in the court, so that we respect constitutional rights, because we can't depend only on attorney general lawyers and other government attorneys to try and make sure rights are vindicated. As a result, they've authorized citizens to go after this and to try and have their rights vindicated. Now, the only way a defendant can get fees awarded against them is if they can prove that my client's case was frivolous, which if they litigated it for over a year almost with us, I personally had about 540 hours into it, I can guarantee you it was not frivolous. But the effect is what I want to talk to you more about here, and that's the chilling effect. That chilling effect is that my clients, let's see, one of them is a furniture upholsterer, the other one's a graduate student in public health who's going to do work for the public, and the third one is an ex-Marine that's unemployed at the time. They don't have money. So what does the city of Pensacola want to say to them? The city of Pensacola wants to say to my clients who really don't have any money, and to anyone else in the future who should ever try to go to federal court to have their rights vindicated, that if you do so, the city of Pensacola is going to punish you. Because if you lose, the city of Pensacola is going to come after you personally. They will bankrupt you. They will get creditors against you for a judgment, for attorney's fees. Now, is that the message that you want to send not only to my clients, but to the citizens of Pensacola? That the city of Pensacola has not only no respect for their rights in the first place, but in the second place, if you dare have the gall to try and vindicate them in court, they will come after you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Myers, and then Mr. Spencer.
Yes, I want to thank Mr. McKenzie for being such a dedicated advocate for the constitutional rights of citizens. And he does a lot of the work he does pro bono without ever expecting to get one dime out of it. You are really a true believer in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I find it very, very troubling that the city of Pensacola has filed a motion for attorney fees in this case. And I will be addressing this under new business, or unfinished business. And I too have a great fear of the message this will send to every citizen. This is probably one of the most important issues facing every citizen in the city of Pensacola, because it will have a chilling effect on the right of people to redress their grievances to the government, and especially through the courts. Personally, I've been in the practice of law for almost 40 years, and I do not have a lot of faith in the judicial system as a way to get justice. It's a very expensive system. You get as much justice as you can afford to pay for. And most people don't have a lot of money to pay for a lot of justice. So I really appreciate it when an attorney such as Mr. McKenzie steps up to the plate and defends the rights of ordinary, everyday people, and especially people who do not have much money to pursue their rights. So I'm going to bring this up later on. I'm also going to discuss the city attorney's fees, and because I found those troubling too. And so you can look for me to bring this matter up under new business or old business, I don't know which.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
I'm just curious if Mr. McKenzie, and maybe he can answer from back there.
No, he needs to do it from the
All right.
microphone. Thanks.
And just a more of a housekeeping question. Did you ever inform your clients that they may in fact face this possibility?
It's a professional obligation on my part to do that, and yes, I did.
Okay.
Why do you ask that question?
I just wanted to make sure they were informed.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Dorothy Dubuisson.
Only one elf this year?
Good evening, Council, and I hope you'll still have respect for me when I speak on serious subjects. But tonight, I've broken my own rule by publicly breaking into elf garb in advance of Thanksgiving. My kids would affirm that it's a strict rule in my house. We celebrate one holiday before we show the next. However, due to the unusual occurrence of such an early Thanksgiving, it appears that this will be the last chance the public will have to address you in advance of that special day, which has occurred annually for the previous 7 years. Yes, you smart council members, ever knowing, have realized that the special time reserved for the children of this city, when they are given control of the magic of Holiday Downtown, occurs next Friday. On November 23rd, the day after Thanksgiving, beginning at 5 p.m., the 8th Annual Downtown Improvement Board's Pensacola Elf Parade and ceremonial lighting of the greens will usher in the magic of Pensacola Winterfest. I stand here, an elderly elf, glad to share the good news with you and to be certain that all of you have it on your calendar. This annual community tradition actually began as an outgrowth of the CRA trolley tour, which originated in 1998. Bolstered by the additional support of the Pensacola Historic District Property Owners Association, the project continued until 2001. Since 2002, this special holiday activity has been created by the works of elves of all ages and all elements of this community through the cooperative efforts of Winterfest of Pensacola Incorporated and its more than 60 partner organizations and sponsors. Just picture this 8th annual upcoming tradition. As a gift to Pensacola citizens and visitors, the volunteers and sponsors present an opportunity for all to gather in the traditional downtown corridor as Santa and this year's very special elf lead the children from the T.T. Wentworth Museum to the Old County Courthouse at 5 o'clock p.m. Many an elderly elf such as I will join the children wearing their own elf ears and special holiday hats and costumes. With special reindeer games, music, and entertainment, anticipation builds as our community makes a wish come true, and this very special elf gets the first wish of Christmas. As Santa's magical snowing sleigh and the goodwill of local families create the perfect holiday environment, the button, recognized by elves and children of all ages, is pressed, and magically, the beautiful Winterfest display is illuminated at 5:30 p.m. With sweet treats for the youthful marching elves, the special warmth of holiday downtown reminds us all of the wonder of the holidays and sharing as we celebrate community through the eyes of the children. The first Winterfest tour of the season departs following the opening ceremony. Tickets for the tour are available at PensacolaWinterfest.org. Adding to the evening's activity choices, following the Winterfest opening ceremony this year, the Sanger Theater brings a new holiday classic to all with a special showing of the award-winning children's movie, The Polar Express. The Sanger box office opens at 5:30 with the movie presentation beginning promptly at 6:30. Families of all ages will enjoy strolling through downtown and savoring the sights, sounds, and tastes of this very special part of Pensacola, all dressed up for the holidays. More information on all of these events may be found at www.downtownpensacola.com. And for those of you who will not be sitting as councilmen on the Friday after Thanksgiving, I wish you all a happy holiday and hope you'll join the rest of the citizens as we celebrate downtown. And thank you for your service.
Okay, thank you. Could I just make one correction to your comments? You're nowhere near elderly, okay? Okay, council, you've had the chance to review the minutes. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Move the approval. Second.
Motion is second, please vote. Madam Clerk, for the record, all council members except for Dr. Wu are present. Thank you. Awards and presentations. Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm going to just take it in order. I'm going to do mine first.
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks. Councilwoman DeWeese, Mrs. Laycock, Mr. DeWeese, would you join me up here on the dais, please? Okay. Yes, yeah, let's do that.
The City of Pensacola, Resolution number 52-12. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Pensacola honoring and commending Myron L. DeWeese for her distinguished and dedicated service to the citizens of Pensacola while serving as a member of the Pensacola City Council. Whereas Myron L. DeWeese served with distinction as the District 3 City Council member since January 12, 2009, and whereas Myron L. DeWeese gave freely of her time and knowledge during her tenure on the City Council while serving as the first president of the City Council, as vice chairman of the Neighborhood Service Committee, and as a member of the Finance Committee, the Economic and Community Development Committee, the Committee of the Whole, and the Community Redevelopment Agency. And whereas throughout her distinguished career, Myron L. DeWeese displayed a deep commitment to public service and public safety, strongly supporting beautification efforts of Scenic Bluffs Park and Scenic Highway as a member of the Scenic Highway Corridor Management Entity, promoted economic development through her work and involvement on the Pensacola Economic Development Commission, promoted international relations by welcoming international visitors through the International Visitors Leadership Program, and responsibly represented the residents of District 3 and the citizens of Pensacola while maintaining quality municipal services and improving the community's quality of life. And whereas Myron L. DeWeese has earned the lasting respect and gratitude of the citizens of Pensacola and exemplified the highest integrity in representing the city of Pensacola through her public and civic service. And whereas the City Council desires to acknowledge and honor Marion L. Deweese for her accomplishments which were in keeping with the highest tradition of public service. Now therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pensacola, Florida, Section 1, that the City Council does hereby recognize Marion L. Deweese for her dedicated public service as an elected official to the citizens of Pensacola and commend her for her lasting contribution to the quality of municipal government. Section 2, that the City Council also recognize Jeff Deweese and the family of Marion L. Deweese, who so generously and unselfishly supported her during her tenure as a City Council member and offer best wishes for the years ahead. Section 3, that a copy of this resolution be presented to Marion L. Deweese with the admiration, respect, and sincere appreciation of her fellow members of the City Council for her years of dedicated public service. Adopted November 15, 2012, approved by Samuel Thornton Hall, the President of City Council, and attested by Erica L. Burnett, City Clerk.
Mr. Townsend, would you move for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Was it okay, our rules are you have to vote? No, I'm not going to push that.
I'll run down there. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Sam.
Oh, thank you. Jeff, thank you. I know you want to say a few words.
Thank you. And I do want to just quickly say what an honor it has been to serve the citizens of District 3 and really all the citizens of our city. We choose this path, us that sit up here, and it is the biggest gift to be given that opportunity. I have learned a great deal about how this city works, and I still love it. This is the best city anyone could ever live in. I have treasured my time with Scenic Highway Foundation. What a jewel it has become. I've treasured my time with my colleagues. We've had the 4 years I've been on council, some of the most amazing decisions that we've made to move this city forward. I am proud of us. I stand by all of you. I'm here if you need me later on, and thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Now, before Mr. Reynolds continues, I just want to ask council, because I know everybody's going to want to have some kind words to say about Ms. Deweese and her service. Would you like to do it now before the rest of the awards and presentations or during council communications? Okay,
Council
we'll do it.
communications.
Ms. Deweese, is it okay if we do it during
Oh,
council?
certainly,
Okay.
certainly.
Okay, all
Everyone
right,
can
thank
just do
you.
this, that's fine too.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we have Dick Barker, Pam Childers, Amber McClure, and Laura Picklap please come forward? The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the City of Pensacola by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its fiscal year 2011 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, also known as the CAFR. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement is given to the individuals designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. The individuals are Chief Financial Officer Dick Barker, Financial Services Manager Pam Childers, who will be leaving us relatively soon, and CPAs Amber McClure and Laura Picklap. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. The City of Pensacola has received this award for 31 years. Congratulations.
Do you want to say anything? Okay, no. How about you?
Me, I go from calling them staff to friends. And it's a good place to be.
Okay. Mrs., tomorrow's your last day?
Tomorrow's the same.
Okay, well, good luck. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations. In order to more strongly emphasize the city's commitment to outstanding performance, one employee is recognized as the Employee of the Month. At this time, if Mr. Ernest Lyons, Operations Officer Technician with the Pensacola Energy, could please come forward. The City of Pensacola is proud to recognize Ernest, Operations Services Technician with Pensacola Energy as Employee for the Month for October. If you remember, he was unable to be available for the October meeting. Ernest has been a hardworking, dedicated city employee for over 33 years. He has been responsible for Pensacola Energy's warehouse operations for nearly 31 years, and he has an excellent rapport with fellow employees as well as vendors. His warehouse responsibilities include ordering, stocking, issuing, and receiving all parts and materials for the department. Confirmation of his diligent work is demonstrated by the stellar inventory reports received from auditors every year. Ernest is always willing to lend a helping hand to fellow employees with such things as servicing tools and equipment, delivering materials to job sites, and playing a key role in natural disaster preparedness. In addition to his daily workload, he enthusiastically participates in Pensacola Energy's many community activities. For his unwavering dedication to his job and his city, we are proud to recognize Ernest Lyons as October's Employee of the Month. Congratulations. Now, if we can have Candace Bondurant, Police Department, to come forward, because she is the Employee of the Month for November. The City of Pensacola is proud to recognize Candace Bondurant, police officer since March of 2005 with the Pensacola Police Department as its Employee of the Month for November. Recently, Candace was dispatched to a site regarding a burglary. Upon arrival, she determined the suspect had caused approximately $10,000 in losses and damages. She conducted a thorough investigation of the scene, including collecting evidence, obtaining latent fingerprints, and interviewing witnesses. She was able to get a description of the suspect and his vehicle, including a partial license plate. Armed with her usual tenacity, she got the missing digits, which were then led to the suspect's address. Officer Bondurant then went to the suspect's residence and saw that the vehicle which had been used in the burglary parked in the front yard. She made contact with the suspect, and an arrest was made and his vehicle seized. Also, recently, she conducted a proactive patrol work around a high crime area when she came across a loaded handgun which had been reported stolen in Atlanta, Georgia. Because of her hard work and effort in these cases, we are proud to recognize Police Officer Candace Bondurant as November's Employee of the Month. Congratulations.
One of the things I've always been impressed with, I was not a Marine, but one of the things I've always been impressed with is their recruiting posters. It didn't matter what age it was, they always were the sharpest dressed guys. Doesn't this officer poster perfect? I mean, it just, yeah, so anyway, thank you.
Former Marine.
Oh, Marine, okay, yeah, she was a Marine.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'll take that as it's indirect.
Chief Simmons just told me that she's also the first female SWAT member that Pensacola Police Department has ever had.
Yeah.
Each month, we have employees who reach milestones in their careers with the city. These milestones, which are observed at 5-year intervals, are symbols of commitment, hard work, and dedication in serving the people of Pensacola. Employees are the city's most important asset. As part of the city team, they individually and jointly seek ways to improve the quality and efficiency of services to every citizen. Tonight, we have the opportunity to publicly recognize and thank this special group of employees. As I call your names, will you please come forward to receive an award of the city's appreciation and be recognized by members of council in this community. For 5 years, Karen Thompson, Administrative Officer 4, Housing. Ms. Thompson serves as the Chief Administrative Officer for Housing. She is responsible for budget preparation, monitoring, and compliance of Housing's 3 federal grant programs. In addition, she works closely with the financial services staff to ensure city compliance with city procedures and requirements related to her financial responsibilities. Ms. Thompson is a team player with a positive attitude who is always ready to lend a helping hand whenever needed. She's a valued member of the housing team. Congratulations. For 20 years, Mr. Steve Weinecke, Administrative Officer 4, Code Enforcement. Steve began his career with the Pensacola Police Department as a police officer in 1992. In 1994, he transferred to the city's Litter Enforcement Office, which would later become the code enforcement activity that he now administers. During his 20-year career, he has been instrumental in the progress and development of the city's code enforcement program. His expertise in the field of code enforcement is a tremendous asset to the city of Pensacola. It is directly through his effort that Pensacola is truly a cleaner and more livable community. Congratulations, Steve. For 30 years of service, Randy Stahl, Police Lieutenant, Police Department, 30 years. As the Professional Standards Lieutenant for the Pensacola Police Department, Randy Stahl is responsible for investigating complaints and other issues involving department personnel. It is a tedious and time-consuming job, but one which he does with thoroughness and dedication. Thank you very much. That is the last of our awards that we have to give tonight, but I did want to recognize someone who decided that he did not want to be here specifically because he does not like these kinds of awards and these kinds of mentions and these kinds of events. Al Garza.
Oh, gosh.
Has worked for the city of Pensacola for over 34 years.
Yeah.
During his tenure with the city, Al has worn many hats. He was appointed as administrative assistant to the city engineer in 1985. In 1988, he was appointed assistant department director of engineering and field operations and has been serving as the director of public works since 2000. Al has demonstrated an uncanny ability to generate maximum productivity during his time as director of public works. His management style is casual, understanding, and some would say almost fatherly. The Public Works Department has been known as the construction workhorse of the city, and that is directly attributable to Mr. Garza. I would like, personally, to thank Mr. Garza for his loyalty and dedication to the city and wish him well in his retirement, and there will be a celebration with city staff and council members that will be coming up in the near future, but this is the last public time that we would have the opportunity to recognize Mr. Garza, which of course meant that he skedaddled on us. But Mr. Al Garza, for 33 years, or 34 years, excuse me, congratulations on your retirement. That is all, Mr. President.
Mr. Garza made all of us look very good. Yeah, he's a... During council communications, yes. Any public hearings, ma'am?
No, sir.
Quasi judicial?
No, sir.
Mayor's report, sir?
Nothing tonight.
Okay,
Mr. President.
great, thanks. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask, Mr. President, when we were going to get the screen behind us fixed. Wanted to ask the mayor's office that, because I've had a couple of comments about that.
I can't answer that, Mr. President. It was supposed to be fixed tonight, but we've had a little bit of a hiccup, and it will be fixed at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks. Council communications. Well, I want to start this off and just express my gratitude to Councilwoman DeWeese, and just a super big thanks for the strong positions that she's taken, and many of them have not been easy, and they may have started off hard and then just got harder as time went on, and sometimes there's a lot of reward that comes with this job, and we get probably more recognition than what we deserve, and probably not as much blame as we do deserve. But I do know there's bound to have been times that Councilwoman DeWeese felt oppressed. I've been there, done that, and she kept her head up in a terrific attitude, and she's been a delight to work with, serve with, and I just want to thank her for her service. And she took on that tough job of being the first president and blazing that, and I think she did a wonderful job at it. Thank you. Ms. Myers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First, I too would like to express not only my gratitude, but deep affection for Maureen DeWeese. It has been a pleasure over the years to know that she was serving on the city council. She always put the interest of the citizens above everything else. She has been a great role model for me, and I'm really going to miss her wisdom and her energy and her insight and just her personality, and I will be looking forward, however, to getting to knowing her better outside of City Council, because we will not have the sunshine restraint. So I will be looking to her for advice and encouragement and continued friendship. And I also wanted to express my appreciation for the other council members who will be leaving us. All of you will be missed. You've provided a great service to the citizens, and I will miss all of you.
Well, you'll get a chance to fawn over us the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd do it a little bit in advance since it's going to be a lot. But anyway, I wanted to bring up something today that I saw that really concerned me and upset me. As you all know, I am a tree lover and a tree hugger. And I was really surprised when I drove down Jefferson Street and I think Ramona Street, where the Pensacola News Journal is, and saw that the trees that were in front of the sluggos had been cut down. All of the trees in front of the Pensacola News Journal were in the process of being cut down. I find that very disturbing. Here we've been talking about improving sidewalks and beautification with trees, and these trees were planted years ago at taxpayers' expense. I've watched them grow over the years. We paid to have them irrigated. They were absolutely beautiful. Those trees in front of sluggos were just beautiful. It added ambiance to the seating area out front. And I don't know who made that decision, but I don't like it. And I have a feeling there's somebody else on this council who doesn't like it either. But just drive down, take a look at it. It's truly amazing to me that we spent money cutting down trees. Of course, it's just taxpayers' money, so we can plant trees, cut them down, plant trees, cut them down, pay to have them irrigated. It's just taxpayers' money. I find it very upsetting, and I would like an explanation as to why those trees were cut down in this downtown area here.
Let's give the mayor's office a
Okay.
chance to respond to
All
that.
right.
Well, the response is, Mr. President, I guess we're assuming it was the city. I don't know about that. I'll certainly find out what occurred and get back to everybody.
Okay. And anything else, Ms. Myers?
Well, I am certainly eager to find out who authorized those trees to be cut down, because they are on the right-of-way. So I would assume that they were paid for by the city and they belong to the city, and I guess we'll find out. But I think that it goes counter to what we have been discussing for a number of years now about beautifying our downtown area with landscaping and trees, and I just find it really unfortunate.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Geralds.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two things. First of all, I would like to let Myron, Mr. Deweese, Councilmember Deweese, know that it was a pleasure serving on council with you. Your wisdom and guidance and some of your comments were very directed and sharp and well thought out. And I will say that it was not your fault that it went over the heads of some. But you continued to try, and that in fact is admirable. But I guess both to you and Jeff, you know, he had to put up with the rest of it when you got home. You know, fast food, taking the girls out, and blah, 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 blah. So in that case, I would congratulate the spouses of those of us who are up here who go through the many hours of meeting. And I did watch Tuesday's meeting. And that's all about you, Mr. Deweese. Thank you very much for serving, and I have served in the past 12 years with many. And if there is ever a case where you can say I've seen it all, I did. The next comment that I would like to make during council communication involves Tuesday's meeting, which I had the pleasure, I will say, of watching it on my laptop. And I will conclude by saying that to listen to council members repeatedly call for backup information, etc. We need more information, and I remember the comments of Mr. Johnson and others. And I want to share with you that it reminded me of when black people come down here asking for diversity and inclusion and not get it. When you folks sit up here, and when I played a part in the game too, keep asking for information and not get it. When do we wake up? And in a way, you can say, well, you're getting what you deserve. Because when the citizens come and ask for diversity and inclusion, they don't get it. And when you keep asking for background information and you don't get it, it's fair game. But If we as a race are willing to continue to ask for it and not get it, as I've said on this council before, we have to take a second step. Because if we don't, we can come in and ask for it, and the council, old or new, will sit and look at you and don't do anything. We hear you loud and clear, but we're not doing it. And you get the same treatment. And we were getting it as a council. We need more background information. We need to know this. However, there is a solution, which this council and everyone up here was a part of it, when we abandoned the committee system. The committee system gave us an opportunity to get the research done, to have that background information, but it was this council who abandoned that process. And then you look around and say, well, we're not getting information. Well, that's why. So you can keep asking for it and not getting it. But I can say on the other end, as a free public tax-paying citizen, as I told my friends, my family at Macedonia Baptist Church, that I may close my mouth a little bit. But as Ms. Myers mentioned, I'm not restricted by the sunshine. So I can talk to council members, I can talk to staff, I can talk to everybody. And the voicemails that you request won't work for you. Because I can say, hell, I've been slapped in the face, stabbed in the back, and kicked in the butt, but I'm still standing. And you haven't heard the last of me. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. What were those three elements,
Slapped in the face, stabbed in the back, and kicked in the butt. And I'm still standing.
That's pretty good. I want to announce, most of you probably know about the Community Maritime Park dedication coming this Saturday. It's going to be some wholesome entertainment all day long for the kids, and I encourage everybody to come out to this beautiful park. Hopefully the weather will be fitting where we can go ahead and have it, but that's this coming Saturday. Just a couple of comments about my co-council person, Ms. Mary Louise. The firemen are really going to have, they could sing the song, What a Friend We Had in Mary Louise. You know that song, because that's one topic that she always stood up for, and they're going to miss her. The resolution that I read did not depict, not just a little inch degree of what dedicated service that she has made to this city and to the council. I was real pleased to read it. So I would suggest to you that when you leave and you and Jeff take off, you might want to do wine-colored days, warmed by the sun, deep velvet nights when you are one. Speak softly, love, so no one hears you but the sky. The vows of love you make will live until you die. Your life is yours, and all because you came into your life with love, so softly, love. Okay? I'm done.
All right, thank you, Tony Bennett. Mr. Johnson.
Well, that's a tough act to follow there. But I'm going to try. Yeah, well, I also want to say it's been a pleasure to serve with Councilwoman DeWeese. We haven't always agreed, but I've always found her passion, her knowledge, her communication skills among the best that I've ever served with here. And I've only served 4 years. When I came on council in 2009, sworn in January, there was 4 new council persons that came on. It was Councilwoman Mack, Councilwoman Pratt, Councilwoman Mack, and myself. I was the only gentleman that came on. I don't know why that happened that way, but it just the way it happened. But I just want to say that I'm going to miss her. We haven't always agreed. She was the first president I ever voted for. She understands Robert's rules as well as anyone before you tonight. It's just been a pleasure again. We're going to miss you. Pensacola is a better place because of you serving, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. Certainly, I want to congratulate Councilwoman DeWeese for a term that will be, will outlast definitely her presence. I know she has changed the physical landscape in many areas in Pensacola. I'm guilty of nominating her for that presidency for the first round, so to speak. And I want to thank Councilwoman DeWeese particularly for always bringing her global experience, her awareness, and her vision back to our city citizens and to the elected peers. And I will especially miss Councilwoman DeWeese's confident deliberation and governance within the context of these chambers. Although her term as council president was the first launch, it was a virtual shakedown cruise. Councilwoman DeWeese didn't allow us to capsize. She didn't abandon her post, and endured probably some of the most difficult episodes as, again, the first sitting council president. I'll miss being able to look across and get what I would describe as guidance with perhaps a facial expression as it relates to proper parliamentary procedure. Not how she may vote, but if I know that we all looked to our former president at times for guidance, and she did an excellent job in that regard, and we will miss her.
Thank you. Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm the only one who can say that I've had to pretend to be Maren a few times when people, since we came on at the same time, approximately the same age, and kids the same age, and the glasses, and the Maren Megan thing, so many people have come up, oh, you did a great job with this or that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, thank you. So I got to receive your praise for you many times, and it was well deserved. I'm going to miss the things that, I've enjoyed on this council, the insight that everyone brings, and their knowledge of different things. And so many times Councilwoman DeWeese has seen an issue and raised questions at council. I'm like, oh. Wow, never thought about that, but wow, oh no, now I need to know what, and sending me scrambling to figure out the background, particularly on the Maritime Park, the financial deals and all of that. That was very helpful to have her insight on those important things. And so I'll follow along and say that you will be sorely missed, and I wish you well. I know we will see each other. It's ironic that our sons are in Sunday school together with Charles Baer's son. So we have a party in Sunday school. So I know we will continue to see each other, and I look forward to actually talking to you more. I do want to add a couple other things. Councilman Townsend mentioned the Maritime Park grand opening, and following on Ms. Dubason's comments about Winterfest, there's also going to be a tree lighting at the Maritime Park next Friday to consider going to that. Tomorrow, we're having Complete Streets Committee meeting where we are going to be trying to start formulating the map, the targeted areas that we want to work on. And then that brings me back to Mr. Garza. I'm glad that Mr. Reynolds brought him up. He was on my to-do list for tonight because he's been such a resource for this community. I had a funny conversation with him recently when I said, oh, well, it's funny to me we're narrowing Main Street when I remember it was a big deal when we widened Main Street. And he said, well, his previous boss told him, you've been around long enough when you start undoing the things you did. And he shared with me that one of his first jobs at the city was at the sewage treatment plant. And then one of his other jobs was widening Main Street. And so I don't think he's been around too long, but it is sort of interesting to see it from that perspective, the projects he's been involved in. But I can't think of anyone who knows what's under this ground better than Mr. Garza. It's his knowledge of our stormwater system never ceased to amaze me. He always amused me because he assumed I knew a lot of engineering because I know engineers, and he went way into detail, but I think he always enjoyed it. And so I'm sorry to see him leave, and I hope that he will continue to do good things for this community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
And thank you. And Martin, you are the best communicator that I've served with, and I've been on 3 different councils, and you are the very, very best communicator. And you may have been the best budget analyst. I know there's 3 people that come to mind when the budget is you, Diane Mack, and Jack Nobles. And I don't know if you want to be in that group or not, but anyway, I know the council will miss both of those. And just a warning to the rest of council, Marin and I, for whatever my strengths or weaknesses are on Robert's rules, you're going to be losing your 2 parliamentarians here, so somebody needs to get sharp. Okay. Now, Miss Barbara Mayhall is asked, and this is unusual for us to do, to be able to speak during council communication just so she can address Ms. DeWeese. So I'm going to ask the council, if there's no objection, to waive the rules and allow Ms. Barbara Mayhall. Okay, there's no objection, so you get to speak.
Thank you very much, President and Council. I'm sorry I'm late. I was at the County Commission. They were voting on an ECAT 4-cent tax deal, so that's why I'm late. I just wanted to come and thank Maureen DeWeese. I'm in her district, and I really appreciate her and all her hard work. And she will be sorely missed in District 3, but I know that she will still be around for us for any questions that we might have. And I spoke with Al Garza too, and we will really miss him because he was my go-to guy for a lot of things for the last 4 or 5 years. And Mr. Hall,
yes,
I am going to miss you. We have been together off and on the gases, taxes, and whatever for the whole time you were in term, and we haven't always gotten along, but I respect you, and I thank you for all your hard work. And I'm sorry, I know this is unusual, and I really appreciate the opportunity, but she is my councilwoman, and I'm sorry I wasn't here on time, but thank you. Thank you, Maureen. We really appreciate you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody else on council communications? Mr. Johnson.
Just very quickly, and I didn't have a chance to mention this, very quickly, we have the infamous gallery night tomorrow night, and wanted to encourage all to come down and just mention that we do have gallery night. I believe it's from, can anybody give me the exact time of that?
If I may, Mr. President?
Oh, it's certainly.
It will be ending at midnight.
Midnight. Okay, so that's gallery night tomorrow night. We'll end at midnight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. This is in response to Councilwoman Meyer's questions about the trees. I believe that some of those trees, in fact, had created impassable situations, unsafe regarding the levels of the sidewalk. And many of those, unfortunately, probably 20-plus years ago, an urban planner suggested a certain tree type to be planted throughout the downtown area. That is the Drake elm, I believe. Does not have a taproot and has been described as inappropriate for urban environments because of what the roots do to lift the sidewalks and create really a bad pedestrian and wheelchair condition. I don't believe any of those trees on South Jefferson actually had any irrigation. As a matter of fact, I'm confident. I recall as a citizen, when they were installed, I was concerned that they had been put in and the budget did not allow for irrigation, but unfortunately, it is not uncommon for cities to actually revamp their tree planting program as they become more educated about what tree species can survive in an environment that is primarily described as impermeable material or surfaces. But I do know personally, walking along that area, I don't think we met any of the necessary clearances at that point at Sluggos because of the columns, the cast iron columns, and the trees. So I think ultimately we will have a much safer condition there.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things. One, Mr. Garza, who is watching, just informed us that we will be replanting trees in that particular area. The second thing is Ms. Dubuisson wanted to make sure that I corrected myself when I said that the streets will be closed at midnight. She wanted to make sure that everybody knows that gallery night is from 5 to 9 p.m. The streets will open at midnight. So, for what it's worth, the streets will stay open until midnight, or will stay closed until midnight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Myers.
Thank you. Well, now Mr. Reynolds just said that they're going to be replanting trees in that particular area. Now, the city has planted a lot of Drake elms. If you go down there on Garden Street and Palafox Street, you're going to see a lot of Drake elms. So I'm assuming since they've been deemed inappropriate for an urban environment, we will be cutting those down too. Now, if you want to talk about unsafe trees, just go down to the end of East Government Street, and the city has never addressed the trees that are growing in the middle of the sidewalk. Surely that's not appropriate. I mean, those trees that were cut down over there in front of Sluggos, I didn't see a problem with them in terms of pedestrian safety. But I'll tell you what, I do see a problem with the trees over there on East Government Street. There's no sidewalk. The sidewalk disappears because of the trees. And nobody in the city has been willing to step up to the plate to address the issue of the trees that are growing in the middle of the sidewalk on East Government Street. I'm not suggesting the trees be cut down because the sidewalk can be built around those trees. But I don't agree with the cutting down of those Drake elms. And if you follow that logic, then are we going to cut down the big Drake elms on Garden Street too? So I think it was not a good decision. Whoever made that decision, in my opinion, made a bad decision. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Burnett, are there any petitions?
There were petitions received from citizens opposing to back-end parking. Those are in your packet.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. Yes, I believe that council needs to be aware those petitions were delivered, and I believe it's the number of names totals close to 175. It's between 150 and 175. And as council representative of District 6, I want everyone to be aware that I consistently am the recipient of phone messages, emails, letters, and that all are it's the same theme. Please replace the back end angled parking on North Palafox. And so I plan to take this cause up beyond just tonight's meeting, because this petition is just really the tip of the iceberg. And finally, I guess it hit home when my 85-year-old mother, who visits an audiologist on North Palafox called me 2 weeks ago and said, I don't feel safe going there. I can't park. And it's, one of the things I like to do is come downtown, but that particular area I avoid. And that's just one voice. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's, I hear about it all the time, but I'm always amazed by it because, I park downtown about 3 times a week and I have to parallel park. And the first 2 steps of it are all the steps you need for the back end parking. And so any problems you've got with a car closing up close to you behind, you've got that with back end parking or parallel parking. But the first 2 steps are exactly the same. And so, anyway, but if you want to keep getting your tomato sandwiches on Tuesday, you better do something about it, so. From Mama.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Okay. All right, anybody else on that topic? Consent agenda. We have several items here. Item number A, gallery night on October 19th and fraternal order of police request for council investigation under charter rules. B, funding for the West Florida Public Library System. C, supplemental budget resolution. D, fiscal year 2013 encumbrance carryover budget resolution. E, Code Enforcement Authority request for lien reduction, 2050 Galt Road, case number 09, TAC 120. F, Code Enforcement Authority request for lien reduction, 2301 West Navy Boulevard, case number 09, TAC 126. G, award of bid number 12, TAC 055, 12th Avenue turn lane at Francis Taylor Boulevard, Pensacola International Airport. H, lease renewal, Bank of America ATM. I, city technology infrastructure replacement. J, deferred retirement option plan ordinance amendments. K, airport approval of amendment number 2 to Air Rose LLC lease and operating agreement. L, release of civil restitution lien for partial payment. M, approval of top-ranked firm, RFQ 12 TAC 032, energy savings consultant for city facilities. N, qualified target industry tax refund incentive for Project Global. O, qualified target industry tax refund incentive for Project Connect. P, appointments, Tourism Development Council. What's your pleasure?
Move the approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any items that you, council members would like to hold? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, number A, please.
A. Okay. Mr. Spencer?
No, that's all right.
Okay. Mr. Gerald's?
Item A has been held. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other items? Okay, Mr. Johnson, I'll let you speak first since you asked for this.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm not going to...
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and vote on the rest of it.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Ms. Myers? Okay. And that passes unanimously. Yes. Item A, gallery night on October 19th and fraternal order of police request for council investigation under charter rules. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm not going to vote for this tonight. I have heard from citizens. I've heard from constituents. I've contacted an attorney on the outside of this issue who has concerns about our ability to subpoena the mayor, et cetera. I've got the memorandum from our city attorney, and I've thought about it for a couple of days. And I tell you, I just have real concerns with going forth with this. I worry about our city, and I wonder if this is good for our city. When I hear about 3 or 4 or 5 different economic development projects we have going on, I wonder how our city looks when an outside company looks at the headlines, these type of headlines. And I think that we've all learned a lesson from this incident. I think that if some had an opportunity to do this a little differently, I think that they would. I think this has the potential to hurt all folks involved. I just, I struggled with this one, lost sleep over it, was up most of last night. I think the bigger picture comes into play here. I think the greater good comes into play here. It's not that I'm supporting someone or not supporting someone or an organization or that I've been turned or anything like that. But I looked at myself in the mirror today and I just don't think it's in the best interest of this city to continue this. I think we should put this behind us, and I think that we should move on to other issues that face this community, whether it be unemployment, crime, and other issues that are important. I'm just not going to support this today, and that's not that I am on one side or the other, that I'm going to say one person or somebody's innocent or not innocent. I'm not going to even go there. I just think that we just have to move on from this. I really do, and it's just the big picture with me. I just really do. I support law enforcement. I support the mayor. I support this city. I think this has a potential to rip us apart, has a potential to just not look good to the outside world, and that concerns me. So this was a very tough decision I came to today. It's just one that I'm going to make, and I'm just ready to get this behind us and move forward. And please realize I'm not passing blame on anyone. I don't know, and I've just got many concerns, and I think it's just time to put this behind us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Spencer.
I ditto everything that Councilman Johnson said. I think he covered everything from the micro, but most importantly to the macro, and that is how constructive is this sort of action as it relates to the public's perception of our city, the progress that we all are striving so earnestly to co-author. I want us to together in a much more unified way support so many of the mayor's efforts that could be described as focused on economic redevelopment or development, and therefore I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. President.
What would that be?
That would be to disapprove of the action that was taken.
Well, you don't even need to make that motion. People can just vote against it, yeah. Okay, is that it? Mr. Geralds.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this will probably be, but not probably, this will be your last lesson from the teacher. And a teacher with a background, a person with a background as a teacher who developed many lesson plans, who listened to many, many students, and there was a process going on here. I did review the memo from Mr. Messer's office explaining the complexity of the situation. And I won't say it was the pleasure, I had the opportunity to watch the 2-hour and 45-minute debate on Tuesday about the same thing. However, before I go into my comments, I will try to set the stage for you, both my fellow council members and the audience and the viewing public, as to how I saw it when it first came before us, when it was dumped in our laps by the police officers and their president from the Benevolent Association or whatever it's called. Because the original problem was not between council and the mayor, it was between someone else. And I guess the council, as responsible individuals, were given the task of solving the problem. We can't do it. So let me give you a setting. As I watched on Tuesday, it reminded me of the story of what can happen in a sandbox. Children playing in the sandbox. Someone tosses up a handful of sand, and some of the members in the sandbox get some in their eyes. And someone says, "You threw sand in my eye." No, I didn't. The wind was blowing, and the wind blew the sand in your eye. Therefore, I'm innocent. So who do we go after, the wind or the sand thrower? Keep that in mind. And by all means, don't misunderstand don't take my comments for an attempt to smooth things over or sweep it under the rug. The only thing I learned from Monday's meeting that was different were the comments about the mayor's response. And the only thing the mayor's response did was indicate that he was there. He was there, and they were there. Something happened. We don't know what it was, and we will never know. Because when you get into a blank contest, it's just going to go back and forth, depending on the wind. The public already perceives, with the encouragement and the help of the PNJ, the Independent News, and others, that there is a strained relationship between the council and the mayor. The action that's before us would only exacerbate that effort or that perception. I forget what that word is, exacerbate or something. But in any case, when you look at what's on the table, and I understand we can investigate, we can look, but as Mr. Johnson said, if there are no videos, no written reports, we really have nothing to investigate. It's going nowhere fast. And then when you get the investigation, what are you going to do about what you've come up with? Well, it's as simple as being in the sandbox. Because once the sand gets in your eyes, you can't get it out until you wash it out or something else happens. But you can investigate. What do you do with your findings? Slap him on the wrist? Censor him? Kick him out of office? Then what do we do? So, I remember a few years ago, and I'm sure once you're reminded that most of you will remember, due to the nature of the problem that's before us. And President Obama once had a similar problem. How did he handle it? He called the parties involved together. Somebody brought a six-pack. They all had a beer, talked it over, and went home. And that's about as far as this is going to go. I won't be with you in the future, as you have 2- and 3-hour meetings to talk about it. But as I observed on Tuesday, and there comes a time, as Mr. Johnson has indicated, that you let certain things go. There was no bloodshed, no one drew any weapons. There was an exchange, a war of words. And if you have an investigation, it's going to be, again, a war of words. Well, he did this, no, and you did that. And in life, there was something I learned back at St. Joseph's College in Brooklyn. And as we considered incidents and we learned to teach children and to interact with the public, there was something I always remembered. When you look at situations, you will be able to identify things that happen. It's usually this, which is what we have in front of us. It's this because of that. Some people like to say, well, you know, it's cause and effect. Same thing. But something has to happen in order to stimulate something else.
Mr. Jones, we need to
Yes, this is my last speech, so y'all be patient.
Okay.
You won't be here, so you won't have to listen to me. You can watch it at home. But I put up with y'all on Tuesday for 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'm not going to take 2 hours and 45 minutes, but a message needs to come clear. To take this action would be ridiculous. A waste of time. Unless there's something definite that you plan to do and can do within the confines of the charter. And let's face it, if there was that incident, there will be others. I think it was made clear on Tuesday, the authority of the mayor and the mayor-appointed chief of police. And I hope that the audience and everybody speaking understood that if the mayor had a problem with what the officers were doing, they get their officers from the chief. That's clear. Same as with the fire department. Or would you have problems or interference with the sanitation department? We don't expect that to happen. But I think lessons have been learned. And the only thing that I learned different from what happened when this was first brought before us was based on the mayor's response. It indicated that he was there. And if he was there, there was an opportunity for an exchange of words. What those words were, we won't know. Because even in the investigation, you can spin that and produce a document that says, well, no one was at fault or at fault. So what have we done then? We wasted a whole, because each party is going to protect themselves and their interests.
Mr. Gerald, I'm going to have to ask for council's permission for you to continue.
I'm winding up. Be patient.
Unless there is no objection, I will allow Mr. Gerald's to continue. All right, thank you.
Well, without objection, they jumped the gun.
Yeah.
I was almost finished. But in any case, as a council, I think it's important that we look at what's before us. We allowed the police officer to bring it to us, and it's almost like a parent or a neighbor trying to enforce the behavior of the neighbor's children. We're one spot removed from the whole ridiculous mess. And it has happened. I don't think we can make it unhappen, if there's such a word. But to keep going with it when we fail to see the light at the end of the tunnel, what can we do? And in the absence of that, we're just going to play around with it endlessly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, and thank you. And Ms. Myers, I do would indulge Mr. Gerald, because this is his last opportunity to pontificate and instruct and teach, but we are limited to 5 minutes by our own rules, please.
Well, I can speak to this again later on, but I'm going to speak my 5 minutes now. Last Tuesday night, when you were faced with a room full of police officers, you voted to do nothing more than to continue to look into this matter. And I really felt that it was too good to be true that council would indeed do that. You received a letter today from a police officer who had the courage to write you a 6-page letter explaining to you very rationally and eloquently why this council needs to continue to look into this matter. I would just like to read from page 3 of his letter regarding the incident that happened on gallery night of October the 19th. He said, "It did cause for a brief time confusion in the ranks of what is normally a well-managed police department. This confusion happened while the officers were engaged in a crowd control action set forth by their chain of command, which was present that night. Why is this so serious? Well, imagine, if you will, a crowd of 3,000 people all thinking as individuals when all of a sudden someone starts to yell at the police officers that they are terrorists and this is not Beirut. Then imagine if some in the crowd had heard them and then realizing that they were in fact city leaders. These people started thinking in their varying levels of alcohol stupor that their rights were being infringed upon unjustly. and that they in some way were being unjustly treated. The crowd, having observed that type of behavior, could have adopted a mob mentality. A mob is defined as a group of people who have a unified purpose, whether right or wrong. The police officers were easily outnumbered 75-1 that night. And the last thing the downtown business establishments needed is a mob action. Now, nothing like that ever came to be, and in spite of the 2 people out of 3,000 who appeared to take offense to their party being shut down early, everyone else acted in an orderly and civil manner and cooperated with law enforcement. Now, he goes on to say, we elected a strong mayor, but we also gave you, the city council, tools by which to protect us as citizens from anyone who would abuse the trust we put into the office of the mayor. I ask you to use those tools. I think that this officer has clearly stated the issue that concerns me the most, and that is the effect of the allegations regarding Mr. Peacock and the mayor. If those things are true that have been alleged, and I don't know if they're true or not, then that would cause me to have great concern over the impact of those actions on our police force. And I think that it is in the best interest of the public to continue along the line that we promised the public we would do, and that we promised the police officers, and that is to gather information regarding this incident using the subpoena powers of the City Council. Now I'm going to address my comments to Mr. Messer. First, I would like to ask Dr. Cox if you received my email in response to Mr. Messer's email. Did you respond to my email? In the future, so that I don't have to ask you if you received my emails, if you would just write me back and say received, can I ask you to do that for me?
Okay, but address the chair, please.
Well, I just wanted to know how much Mr. Messer knew. Anyway,
your response to address the chair.
Excuse me. May I continue? You're taking up part of my 5 minutes.
You're out of order, ma'am. You know, and your 5 minutes is up. I'm going to extend your time, but go ahead.
I want to say to Mr. Messer that I think your memo has done a great disservice to this City Council. I think that your memo has misled the City Council as to what the real legal issues are here. For instance, you say, after an analysis of the statements, Council must determine what, if any, violation of the Charter occurred. No, we don't have to. This is not a violation of the Charter issue. The Charter clearly, unambiguously, gives this Council the following powers: to inquire into the conduct of any municipal office, department, agency, or officer, and to investigate municipal affairs, and for that purpose may subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, and compel the production of books, papers, or other evidence. The Charter says nothing about our powers to issue subpoenas being predicated on a Charter violation. We're not even alleging there has been a Charter violation. At this point, we're exercising our right under the Charter to make inquiries and investigations by using the subpoena powers that we have. So you mischaracterized what the issue is. It is not a Charter violation issue. You say that again. If the Charter determines a Charter violation occurred, well, we don't have to make a determination that there was a Charter violation. That's not even the issue. Then you go on to say, as we discussed, this matter raises significant first impression issues, including but not limited to whether the council can subpoena the mayor, whether the mayor has a duty to obey the subpoena, whether council can enforce the subpoena against witnesses who refuse to comply with their subpoena, and who, what, when, and where are any witnesses to be interviewed. Well, I have the answer to that from an AG's opinion. According to the charter, the mayor has a duty to honor subpoenas. How are they enforced? Simple. You go to court, you ask a judge for an order to compel somebody to comply with a subpoena. It's that simple. That's all that's required. However, in addressing Mr. Messer's memo, one thing that he did say that I agree with, that he would recommend council consult with a respected and credible outside attorney in order to investigate this case. In this city, we have a retired Florida Supreme Court justice as well as several retired circuit court judges that would fit the bill. Other city attorneys and administrators have taken the same approach. This issue is not a complicated issue. Number one, it has nothing to do with whether somebody violated the charter. That's not the issue. The issue is simple. The city council can investigate and make inquiries into anything we want to investigate. And those are powers that all municipalities have, the subpoena power. We also have boards that have subpoena power. For instance, our General Pension Board has subpoena powers. The Commission on Human Relations has subpoena powers. So how do they issue subpoenas? So I feel that we should go forward with this. This is not complicated. We have a city attorney who has a real sweetheart contract. We pay our city attorney a lot of money. We have an assistant city attorney. We have a paralegal. The issuing of these subpoenas is pretty much a ministerial act, but I do agree with Mr. Messer that, and this is why I think that we need to retain outside counsel. And I think this is just further proof of it. But as far as this particular motion goes that's on the floor right now, I urge this council to do the right thing. You know what the right thing is. We're not going to put an end to this controversy unless we allow the public to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I support this motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I too am greatly concerned that I've seen it happen many times where we can have a unanimous vote at our committee of the whole, and then it absolutely falls apart by the time it gets here. You know, I've said this 100 times. If I've said it once, this is government, not philosophy. We cannot excuse ourselves from principle here. I see where this is going. I certainly can count, and I think most people can. This will not pass tonight. And what concerns me the most is that we have an issue in front of us of interference with law enforcement. I just cannot fathom that this many people are making this situation up. And regardless, we will never know because this will not pass and we will not have statements from all involved and understand what occurred that night. But something that one of the officers said, and first of all, I honor every one of the officers that came down to our meeting on Tuesday and shared their thoughts. But the one in particular, Officer Wilkinson, that shared this 6 pages, he talked about in his 34 years of law enforcement, he has never seen this kind of interference with law enforcement, except once. And he talked about that, and an officer gave a ticket. It was in Mississippi. And the gentleman said, "You may not want to sign that. I know the mayor, and I will have your job." And he lost his job. And he asked his friend later that same day how he felt about it. And he said, this is his quote, he said, "If the law does not apply to everyone, then there is no sense in enforcing the law." He rests well, I'm sure, because he did the right thing. The other thing that he talked about was absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this letter goes on. And what is of greatest concern is that nothing will be done. And you cannot unspeak what happened that night. You cannot unwind what has happened since then. I wish that this had been resolved peacefully and quietly with all parties involved. As Councilman Gerald said, just get together and talk about this. We're all reasonable people. But what I do hope for is this, because we are obviously going to move on, and I hope we all get past this, that we all have a very healthy understanding of what interference with law enforcement constitutes. Our mayor, anyone on this city council, and anyone else in this city for that matter, is not above the law. There are no separate laws and special privileges for anyone. The laws of the state that apply in this case and the laws of our city apply to absolutely everyone. This is not the first case of an incident, and I hope it will be the last. It is a shame to the city as a whole. This council, once again, has been put in a terrible position. We do this willingly and with pride, and I'm sad that we sit here and have to make this decision. I'm sad it's not going to pass tonight. But I know where I stand on it, and we have a lot more to lose here than simply just asking all involved to grow up, apologize, and do it in writing if we need so everyone can understand what happened that night and move on. Thank you.
Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Johnson mentioned how he doesn't like how things like this make the city look, how having this continue, it was, front page of the paper, it probably will be front page tomorrow, whichever way it passes. This doesn't look good. But it wasn't because the council wanted to do the subpoena. It was because the officers came a few weeks ago to the council. And my feeling is, if we don't look at this and we don't resolve it, lessons aren't learned. The only lesson that is learned is, okay, well, it's okay to do that, and then the officers can come, they'll make a big stink, it'll get in the paper, and it's not just the officers, any person who feels grieved will come and nothing will happen. But it'll continue to be in the paper. This is, if nothing happens over this, then there are no lessons learned. The issue on Monday, the original start of the motion didn't include subpoenas. It included just getting statements. That's what we asked for at the last council meeting. We wanted information. We wanted to hear both sides of the story. No one should be presumed guilty. We wanted to know, Mr. Mayor, what is your position on this? And we didn't hear that. And so that was why we then said, okay, now we need to formally ask it. The subpoena issue was not about the mayor. It was to protect the officers. People keep saying, well, where's your evidence? Well, the officers fear for their positions, and they are compelled in their chain of command to require a subpoena. And so we were offering that protection to them. The mayor doesn't have to be subpoenaed. He has every opportunity to state his side anytime he'd like. We're not saying anything illegal happened. The request from the council was simply, we want to be able to satisfy the public. I've had people say, wow, whatever happened, that was all screwed up or something like that. But they really want to know what happened, and not just what happened. We don't want to play a blame game. We want to say, I never want to have what happened at the council meeting with a packed room of officers having complaints against their government. I don't want that to happen again. I want this city to be well respected, for everyone within the city to respect everyone else in the city. And when the officers felt compelled to go outside their normal chain of command, that sends a signal to everyone that something is wrong. As Councilwoman Deweese said, I know how to count. And I know that the parliamentary things, how everything works, but I am sorry that this is not going to move forward tonight, though I do ask that the future council spend some time figuring out how we are expected to carry out our duties under the charter, not just for this incident, but in the future. We need to know how our government can be accountable to the citizens whom we represent. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Deweese.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to speak again. And I do have to say, when the international visitors come, I always talk about all of us on council, and I say, I'm a business person and Dr. Pratt is a scientist. And we come to the same conclusion for totally different reasons. And what she just pointed out to me, I'd like to offer an amendment to this motion. When I originally made it, I said inquire, not investigate, not to inflame the situation, basically. And it was offered up that the subpoena would offer protections to the officers. And within their Bill of Rights, there is also protections under that, and I will read it into the record. I apologize if I don't have the number of the statute. 112.532, Section 5, retaliation for exercising rights. If this motion is amended, what I'd like to offer then is to remove the word subpoena and add that they are afforded the protections of that statute with that sub number to move forward with an inquiry. Then what that allows is the parties that want to respond in writing have the protections. The ones that choose not to respond in writing will not do so and are not subpoenaed or required. That was my original intention, was to hope that all would respond and we could resolve this permanently. So I'm offering that amendment to the original motion.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, Ms. Myers, that you've got your light turned on before the motion was made. Do you want to speak to that amendment?
Yes. I want to be able to give any citizen the assurance that they will not be retaliated against in any manner if they come forward with any information regarding this matter. I believe that Ms. DeWeese's motion hopefully will give the officers and the public some level of comfort. I want to say specifically to Mr. Chris Wilkinson, thank you for your courage it took to write this letter that you sent to City Council. And I want to assure you, as far as I'm concerned, that if you should face any type of retaliation for addressing your grievances to the government, I hope that this council will not allow that to happen. So I want the citizens to understand that you have the constitutional right to redress your grievances to the government. These police officers are citizens, and they have the right to redress their grievances to the government, and that's their First Amendment right, and they are protected from retaliation.
Okay.
So I support this amendment, and because I don't feel that the original motion will pass, unfortunately, so I will support the amended motion.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gerald, did you want to speak to the?
Yes, to the amendment, yes, I
Yes.
did. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Weiss. And this is certainly the kind of level-headed thinking that was so much a part of the council's ability to move forward. And what her amendment does is it saves the original motion from going down the tube. I think everybody understands that, and the citizens all understand that something needs to take place. And what's going to happen is the equivalent of calling a meeting that involves the parties who were present. Because I can guarantee you that both parties will protect their own interests in any investigation. And what you'll get from an attorney or the mediator or who takes charge of gathering the data will be almost the equivalent of grabbing a six-pack and talking it over. Because we're not going to beat anybody over the head for what has happened. So this gives the parties involved an opportunity to settle this thing and allow the citizens and the city of Pensacola and the council to move forward. because we're kind of limited in what we can do to the parties involved. And as I said earlier, the only things that we really know is that A, the police officers were there, and based on the response that was published by the mayor, we know that he was there. And that's about it. The rest of it that we are going to get is going to be what I usually call fluff. But in any case, I won't be here to deal with it, and I will enjoy, I hope, or I think, the fireworks that result. But I can support the motion. Let's move forward. And if you need subpoenas or whatever, or what have you, you can do that some other time when you have something to subpoena. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, and thank you. I've got 3 people that wish to speak. Do you want to speak to the main motion? Would you prefer to do that rather than just this specific amendment? I think it would be better to, yeah, just let us approve or disapprove of this and then go on. Okay, please vote. Okay, and that passes on a 5-3 vote. Thank you. All right, I'd like to have the public have an opportunity to speak. Ms. Dubuisson?
I'm truly sorry to have to stand and speak on this issue again. I'm going to spell a word, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. I'm not going to break into song. What I'm asking you to do is stop and think about what that word means to the citizens and especially to the police force. You had a group of policemen present a concern to this council and ask for action. It was moved forward to the Committee of the Whole. At the Committee of the Whole, the statements were made that no one has complained, so why are we talking about it? You had a room full of people complaining who agreed to wait until the Committee of the Whole. You had the Committee of the Whole meeting, and for how many hours you sat and spoke. Many of us got up to give our input. Details were shared about what had occurred by the individuals who were being quoted. In none of that was the after comments brought up, which is where I am coming from. This investigation needs to include what happened and how it was handled. And I believe that when the mayor made the statement that the policeman acted inappropriately, which is what was quoted in the paper, that was a grievous disservice to our policemen. They acted precisely appropriately. They were doing what they had been directed to do by the officer in charge, which had been reviewed with their chain of command. If the mayor and Mr. Peacock needed something changed, they should have gone through the chain of command. And what you are doing by not investigating why that did not happen is saying it's okay. You may be saying to yourselves they learned their lesson. I don't believe they have, because no apology has been forthcoming for the statements made during or afterwards that I have been able to read anywhere. I don't often offer to do something, but I guess I'm going to have to offer to buy you guys a giant rug, because if you do not investigate this, you are doing precisely what all the citizens asked you not to do on Monday, and you are sweeping this issue under the rug. Citizens need to know that they are respected by the police force, and the police force needs to know that they are respected by the citizens, and that includes any elected person thereof. I feel very sad for our city that in the name of economic development, we're going to say we're not going to make certain what our police force is doing. Let me tell you, the damage that has been done to our economic development has already occurred by the references that have been made to don't go down there to Pensacola unless you're ready to cut a deal with someone. Don't go down there to Pensacola unless you know that the mayor wants you to do something because he is the final say-so. When in fact, the police are the enforcement arm of our government. The mayor is not. He may hire the chief of police, but he does not direct on a daily basis each officer, and that is what was occurring at the event. I am truly sorry that those of you who have changed your mind have decided that it is not worth sticking to the guns that you were able to voice on Monday, and I appreciate that you are concerned about economic development. But if we do not feel safe, and if citizens do not feel that their police force is justified in what it's doing, then we don't have any economic development concerns. We won't exist as a community. Thank you.
Ms. Sonia Merritt?
Sonia Merritt, 805 South J Street. I wasn't going to talk, but it got me mad thinking that you weren't going to do anything, because it seems like the same old days as the past, when councilmen's kids didn't go to jail when they did things. All the people that, if you're on the council or you're mayor's kid, you get away with anything. The police can't enforce anything against you. And I personally married a nephew of a judge and have never seen child support, and my ex-husband got arrested 40 times without driving, with no driver's license, and he's yet to serve 1 day in jail. And they have never done anything. And I see the same old thing again. The cops can't enforce the laws against people who serve in this city, and it's really bad. And people from other cities look at us like we're a joke. All the way down to Lake City business people. I own 2 companies, and I do business with people. People in Orange Beach think we're a joke. People in Lake City think we're a joke. I mean, this is getting pretty bad. When the council gets away with anything, the mayor gets away with anything, but the rest of us, we go to jail. So if you keep doing this and you don't investigate this, we're only gonna get worse. And people wanna leave for that reason. And I've spent my whole life here, all 55 years of it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Liz Watkins. Welcome back.
Hello. The mayor and Mr. Peacock should have assisted the police officers on gallery night. I wasn't there, but I've heard from people who were there. And I'm not going to repeat what was just said by these 2 ladies. But if this is swept under the rug, like I said a few weeks ago, every one of you sitting there should not be sitting there in 2 years. And I will personally keep this going for 2 years if this is not investigated. This was written October 26, 2012. Beirut, terrorist aftermath, Palafox? Seriously. I'm reading the little story about gallery night folks upset because the cops closed down the joint when the party stopped at 9 p.m. Now, I wasn't there, so I won't get into the details of how Johnny Law acted toward the crowd, but the comments from some folks who should know better are what's bothering me. One man quoted in today's story said the chaos resembled the aftermath of a terrorist attack. Seriously? How many lives were lost at gallery night? How many families destroyed? How many buildings crumbled? Has the man seen pictures of the aftermath of a terrorist attack? It resembled that? Oklahoma City, Ground Zero, it resembled that? Probably a bit insensitive. And according to various police, said Mayor Hayward told an officer, this isn't Beirut. No, it's not. Not even close. See, Paul Lyon, a Milton resident, was a Marine in Beirut. On October 23rd of 2012, the Lyon family commemorated the 29th anniversary of their son's death in the Beirut bombing of 1983. We lost 238 Marines that day. One was Lyon, who had just turned 21 3 days earlier. No, Mayor, this isn't Beirut. It isn't the aftermath of a terrorist attack. I'm surprised people would think they were similar. Being startled and spilling a bit of wine does not equate with terrorism or Beirut. It's like me getting a splinter and saying, now I know how Jesus felt. This was written by Troy Moon in the Pensacola News Journal. It was online for less than 48 hours, and it was removed, and I think people needed to hear it.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Watkins. Mr. Frankie Stoudemire. Did I say that right? Okay.
To the council and to everybody. I've sit here for the last week or 2, and I'm watching my tax dollars being just wasted. We're going to promote Pensacola. We're going to have better opinions of Pensacola than we have right now. Those are true statements. I got a call from California like, what the hell is going on with the police and the mayor? See, this just doesn't, it goes with the internet now, it's all over the country. People probably was going to come here, but now that the police and the mayor is fighting, then there's a problem. So you need to see how far this reaches. First of all, if you come into our community, and we're having a legal event, and if I jump up, I've had something to drink or whatever the reason, and that police officer getting ready to do his job, he's gonna lock me up. 1, for public drunkenness, number 2, for obstruction of justice. I'm not gonna get away, I'll be in the court for one of those charges. I can understand the public, it's an event where there's drinking going on, it's in a controlled environment. I know the event very well. But when anybody, council member, whoever, gets in the way of the police procedure, that's obstruction of justice. That officer has an opportunity to take you to jail or put you in the car, let you think about it for a minute, and you're gonna say anything to get out the car. So I see that from the police perspective. We want our police officers to do their job, regardless. And I heard one of the officers speak about maybe he was drinking, whatever the reason. Some things are unacceptable when it comes to your office. Now, for you to be a council member and go there to the Wahoo game and get drunk and start acting fool, think you're not going to jail, that's crazy. But the people that I know that have experienced the police procedure, they says, I'll never go back to Pensacola because I went on vacation, I left on probation, and I'm going back for violation. So we don't want that picture to be given for Pensacola because it's counterproductive to what you're trying to do. Development means to make better, right? And economic means money. We have wasted enough taxpayers' money with this incident. No, you don't sweep it under the rug. He should have been held accountable for his actions as a citizen because he's a citizen at that point. You can't jump in and out of office when you're in the streets because that's what has been happening in the city of Pensacola for years. We already know this. We're not mad. We just don't want the resources we have to be wasted bringing the council in on a matter that can be handled by the police department. By the same token, we don't need you wasting money trying to re-raise the mayor. If he felt like he's done nothing wrong, and then if the police department felt like he did something wrong, he should have been in the car. That's what citizens are saying. Because when you hear it on the news, and you hear it down here for 3 hours, here we go again, our whole day has been on the same matter. We have spent how many dollars? Taxpayer, our money. We pay for this. Who's gonna pay for the lawyer? Who's gonna pay for this stuff is what we wanna know as citizens. So we can expedite this and get it done. If you have no charges, you have nothing to stand on. But we want to know who's going to pay for all this stuff. I agree with you as a city council to take things at heart that affect us as a city. But there's a way to do things whereas maybe sometimes six-pack won't do it. But we all need to be held accountable as citizens because people are wanting to come to Pensacola, but they're not going to come with the way we're going. And if we can take that kind of money that we're wasting on this matter and go fix the trees down on East Government Street, everybody wins. You know, we're deciding on things that really are not important at this point. We're trying to move forward with the green initiatives and different things. We just got a bunch of money in the Pensacola area, and these people are going to take that money and spend it somewhere else because they don't feel like they can do it here in town. And I think that's the objective, to get the money in, keep the money in the community, therefore your economic community redevelopment happens. We as a black community, we want to know how much money is going to be wasted that we can use in our areas. Because I see no development going on other than drainage. And had not been for the flood on June the 9th, that probably wouldn't be in effect. But we don't want to wait till something happens and react. We need to put in things in place so that when this comes up, that we can be more effective as a city council, mayor, and especially the police department. Considering that amount of people, those few officers, I think they did a great job. Nobody got hurt, nobody got killed. And these are the type of reports that you want. We don't want this bickering. We got bickering going on in the White House. But in the city of Pensacola, we want to see, people want to see us working together. Community, law enforcement, council, whether it be county commissioners or whatever. We need to work together in order for us to take Pensacola as a whole and present it and try to get the funding and stuff that it takes to get it done. We got the money now in order to do what we need to do. Y'all saying some good speeches for election, re-election, but we want to see.
I need you to wrap it up, Mr.
Yeah,
Stoudemire.
we want to see a more uniform way of doing things where we don't waste our tax dollars on bickering.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Peacock.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been an interesting week or so. There's obviously some things that happened on gallery night that were confusing for a lot of people. Myself, for one, had no idea the streets were going to open at 9 o'clock. Why did I come to that conclusion? Well, there was an email 2 days prior from the city staff that said,
Quite frankly, Mr. Peacock, it doesn't matter that you didn't know.
I'm getting to my point, Mr. Hall, thank you. Thanks for the interruption, though. Thanks. At the end of the day, the first time I heard about anything that was an issue was at the last council meeting. And I got a call from Nate and tried to get my side of the story. I was so disturbed by that that I called the chief the next day. And I explained to the chief that what I did and why I did it. I was very concerned about public safety, and I can explain why I was concerned about that. But at the end of the day, I told the chief that under no circumstances would I ever want to disrespect an officer. And if I did, unintentionally, I apologize. It continued on, obviously, the story, for whatever reason. For several days, several weeks, the committee of the whole meeting, it continued. I thought it was kind of dying. How naive of me. After the last committee of the whole meeting, I called the chief and said, Chief, can I get the number for the union president? Because I want to have the same conversation with him. And I had that conversation Wednesday. I was concerned about public safety at the time in which, where I was, that moment in time, there were more people in a spot that can physically move. And the headline I didn't want to see is that pedestrian at gallery night inadvertently injured by a police car. Now, would that happen? I don't know. And what I did, I asked for the chief to get involved and make a decision. I didn't try to order anybody around, made no recommendation to that. I asked for the chief to be called. There's precedent there. A couple years ago, I was at Legion Field watching my little brother, Prashant Jenkins, play football. There was more cars that day than any time before because it was a jamboree. There were people parked everywhere in no parking zones. The police showed up for whatever reason, started writing tickets, getting people towed away. I tried to explain to the police officers this is a big time deal for this community. For any community, youth sports is a big time deal. They said, man, I'm just doing my job. I said, I get that. I called the mayor right after he was elected. He called Chief Simmons. Within 15 minutes they were there. They assessed the issue and they resolved the issue for that day. That was the intent that night. Did I call people terrorists? Absolutely not. Did I use the word terrorist attack? Yes. Do I wish I didn't? Yes. I apologize for that. But at the end of the day, my concern was purely public safety. And I would do that whether it's a DIB member, private citizen, or anybody. If I can avoid an issue, I have years of experience in emergency management, and that was my intent. There's been people in the city and this council jump to major conclusions about what was said and what wasn't, and nobody's asked my opinion or my story. So thank you so much for allowing me finally to say that, and I appreciate it.
And I want to apologize to you for interrupting, but one of the reasons I did speak up because I wanted to make it clear. I think the argument in the press has been made that this is about a gallery night. And we had several citizens show up at the committee of the whole meeting, making it out as such and stuff that ought to be done internally with the DIB and perhaps some better interaction with the seventh floor. But this was not about gallery night or who knew what when. And so I do want to tell you that I certainly appreciate, first of all, I consider you a friend, and you've been a supporter of mine. I'm just going to do the big disclaimer there. And I want to...
My wife has, actually. I can't write you.
Well, certainly. Okay. Yes. And I want to thank you come down here. I was wondering if you were doing the wise thing to get up here and speak. I didn't know what to expect you to say, and I'm grateful for the words that you shared with us tonight. And I think there's been lessons for all of us learned in this. And I've got several lights on, and I just want to caution everybody that some of you have already spoken twice, and others have spoken once, and this will be your second time. So unless we're going to do a major waiving of the rules of council, I just want you to think twice about whether you want to speak or not. Okay. Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too wanted to thank Mr. Peacock for coming. You know, when we met a couple weeks ago and this came up, the motion from this council was, you know, basically we wanted to hear both sides of the story because there are always two sides. And that's what we were hoping to have on Monday. And I was looking down because I was checking back in our minutes that it seems we had just said a response from the mayor's office and the DIB, I guess, was also included. And so I think we were all hoping that we would have a statement from you, from the mayor, that both said almost what you said. You know, I went up to him, I introduced myself based on what I know about, you know, you didn't say all that, but I'm guessing you said, hey, I'm on the DIB. this is a mess. Is there anything we could do? No? Okay, let's call Chip. Because we all want to ensure that the police are never put in a bad position and that there never, problems come out of it. And I think the concern the council has had is that what, do we all know that that's the way it should work? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the statement from you, from the mayor, that, I was there, I said, gosh, this isn't cool, but I didn't say, oh, I want to circumvent. I'm talking to one of many officers, and I'm going to tell this officer, let's do it differently. And so I think the real challenge we're facing is the chain of command working or is it not? And so that's the kind of information we're trying to get. And I appreciate your comments tonight, and that was very helpful. And I apologize that it wasn't clear to you, or it wasn't necessarily clear to all of us, that we were hoping for your comments as well on Monday, and I welcome them tonight. Thank you.
When I was out of town on Tuesday, but all anybody had to do was ask.
Address the chair, please. 15 seconds.
Sure. All anybody had to do was ask. I was out of town on Tuesday, or else I would have been there. But all anybody had to do was ask. And at the end of the day, I hope council just says, you guys deal with it. I dealt with it. I think the chief was satisfied. I'm not going to speak for him, that I was sincere in my conversation with him, and I think Mr. Goss is too.
For the record, you did call me and talk to me on the phone. So.
Yes, sir, I did.
Mr. Spencer.
I want to thank Mr. Peacock for speaking tonight. Most importantly, what I want to acknowledge is that it is so easy to be mischaracterized when stories are heard secondhand, thirdhand, and here Mr. Peacock is reminding us he's someone that has been deeply involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program for years, pointed out an incident that occurred while being with one of his little brothers, and most importantly, he recognized what he thought was an infraction or a safety issue. He proved that he wants to get involved in a positive way. He did so years ago, and I truly believe his involvement at the recent gallery night was for the good of the city and for the safety of those involved. So I appreciate you coming up here, Mr. Peacock. I appreciate you speaking with the chief of police, or Mr. President. I appreciate him doing that, and also reaching out to Officer Gauze.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Tuesday afternoon, I heard from the president of the FOP, and he said an apology would be adequate. From one of the two parties involved in this incident, or this situation, we've just heard an apology. Am I correct, Mr. President? Did I just hear an apology?
Yes.
I just heard an apology. So that therefore, according to what was said at Tuesday's meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone before us today, the apologies happened. It appears that he's reached out to the police force. He's apologized to the police force. This is what they asked for. So that's what they asked for. This has happened with one of the parties. I'm not sure what happened with the other party. But, this is tough. I was threatened just a minute ago that a lady would not forget this 2 years from now. Well, I was threatened on the other side of this, that if I continue this on, that they won't forget this 2 years from now. So I've been threatened on this issue now on both sides of the fence. So, this is tough. Again, I go back to the greater good. I go back to what's good for this city, the image of this city. I support law enforcement. I support the mayor. I don't, to get into this he said, she said, I just don't, I think we still end up at this place where there's going to be statements made that this happened, and there's going to be statements made that happened, and, we're going to spend $100,000 on, or $200,000 on legal fees that I would rather see go to the police officers for a pay raise, to be honest with you. But to continue this dialogue, and I feel that it's tearing this, it's just continually tears this city apart, and I just like to put this behind us. I've been threatened now here at the podium about remembering 2 years. Well, I had the same conversation with another constituent that threatened me if we continue this. I had one constituent say, where are the giraffes and elephant. So I hear all kind of comments. You know, I try to make the best decision I can. I know there's some that won't agree with me, but I just truly believe the greater good that we get this behind us. I've heard this gentleman apologize today. He said he spoke with the chief. I guess you spoke with the FOP also?
Yes, sir.
And you've apologized?
We had a conversation that included an apology, yes, sir.
There you go.
I explained my position, which was also important for me.
I apologize, Mr. President, for not talking to you directly, but, you know, that's what they were looking for. It's happened with one individual involved in this, and I just don't see to prolong this is just healthy for our community in many ways, and I just hope that people realize that I'm trying to look at this, the big picture. And that's it, and that's just as sincere as I can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Geralds, I'm going to put you on the honor system. I know you spoke twice, but I can't remember if it was twice to the main motion, or if it's, and I know you spoke to the amendment once, but I'm going to put you on the honor system. Go ahead.
Trust me, these comments will be brief. Since the item on the consent agenda, item A, has already been changed. There was a word mentioned on Tuesday, inebriated. And that word was verified. Because as Mr. Peacock put it, if I did, I'm sorry. Well, that answers the question. If people were intoxicated, drunk, or inebriated, it's likely they didn't remember what they did. And that's what he said. If I did, I'm sorry. Sitting in front of the public and not making a decision to do anything, I think it's already clear by the amendment what's going to happen. Nothing. So I'm not going to sit here another 2 hours and 45 minutes to go around in the same circle. And it kind of reminds me of the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, what are we doing? Jethro in charge. We've already made a decision. We're not going to take him out back and beat him over the head. And the public will not be satisfied. Now, if they wish to come down and make their claims of being mistreated, injured in any way, they have a right to do so. But to go around and around, and we've already decided, it's not being swept under the rug. It's just the council said, well, you know, there's not a whole lot there. And it's really not. But when I heard that word on Tuesday, and it wasn't used in the original report, and the people were kind. They didn't say drunk. We picked a little word. We said inebriated. But Mr. Peacock says, if I did, well, hell, that's telling me he don't know whether he did or not. And we'll never get the proof. Because when the people sober up, they don't know what they said or what they did. So then what do you have to prosecute? It's over. It's clean. So back off. Move on to something else.
Mr. President, can
I have
address
another
that, Mr.
meeting that
President?
I have to attend, and I will ask to be dismissed. And y'all can sit here and do this. Somebody can pop some popcorn and what have you.
Mr. Peacock,
That's okay.
just hold your remarks until after Ms. Myers has her chance to, please, okay? Okay, Ms. Myers, I'm going to put you on the same honor system as Mr. Geralds, because I can't remember if you spoke twice to
I
the main
haven't
one.
spoken twice.
Okay, thank you.
But, Mr. Peacock, I want to thank you for coming down here to the city council and making the statements you made and publicly apologizing to the police officers. I also want to clarify the statements that were made at the Committee of the Whole. The word inebriated or being drunk was not made in regards to Mr. Peacock. That had to do with the mayor. So I want that to be made publicly clear that at no time has anyone ever, to my knowledge, accused Mr. Peacock of being any way impaired in that respect. And just let me finish, okay? I have admired you throughout the years for all of your civic work and your involvement in trying to make government better. I think that you are a person that is well known in the community in that regard, and people look up to you. And I really regret that this has happened. And I think it means a lot for the public to hear you make a public apology and explain from your perspective what happened. And you know, when you called me and asked me if I would make a motion to reconsider your appointment to the DIB, I did that because even though I told you that I would not support you because of the diversity issue, it had nothing to do, as I told you, with your capabilities. So I wanted to be fair to you and make sure that you had a fair opportunity based on your merits to be nominated for and approved for the DIB. And it's the same spirit I have today. I want to be fair to you. The police officers came and asked us, not only did they say they wanted an apology, but they wanted us to look into this matter and to exercise our subpoena power, because I don't think that some of them felt comfortable making statements without the protection of the subpoena power. But I just want you to know that I appreciate your coming here, and I hope that we can move forward and make gallery night safe. And people need to feel safe that they can come down there and that the police will protect them. I mean, Ms. Dubuisson brought up some good points about the citizens needing to feel when they come down to gallery night that the police are not going to be intimidated in terms of doing their job. So, you know, we want to project an image of gallery night as a safe place for people to come. And I have expressed my concerns to the mayor that I have reservations about coming down here because I don't want to be jostled around. And so I think that we need to work together to make gallery night safe and for people to feel safe to come down there and to know that the police are going to be able to do their job.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm not going to belabor the points made. I agree with the comments. I just simply want to say thank you. Thank you for waiting over 2 hours to speak, and thank you for explaining what happened that night. I do appreciate that, and I honor and respect you for doing so. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to respond. I just want to tack on real quickly here. I've always thought a whole lot of you. I think even more of you tonight. Thank you. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just really quick, I think it's important that everybody understands that I attempted to broker through the union a meeting between the mayor and the officers involved, and the union was not interested in that meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, I supported Ms. DeWeese's motion because I do think that if it were to pass, that it improved the original motion. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be supporting the main motion tonight. And it has nothing to do whether I think that we ought to investigate or not. The city attorney raised, I think, some legitimate concerns that if things were to play out in the worst possible way, that we could jeopardize future counsel's ability to carry out their investigative powers. It also, and I'm just going to do a little dart off topic here, it also showed how woefully understaffed and underrepresented the city council is compared to the 840 people of the executive branch. And it desperately begs for this council to get its own legal representation. And I have a feeling that's forthcoming. And this one issue, I think, has helped spur that on. And I welcome it. Now, I think there's people waving bloody shirts on both sides of this issue. and Mr. Johnson's right. If you're doing it strictly from a political point of view, it's a tough place to be in. And Ms. Dubuisson, excuse me, she's the correcting factor for us a lot of times. She's kind of our guiding light. And sometimes when nobody else is making sense, she does that. It is a matter of respect. And I just want our police officers to know they have my undying respect. And I've written this in electronic form. I've said it in different meetings. The mayor's a friend of mine. I've been one of his biggest political allies. When I heard the story from the FOP, it sounded credible to me. And I'm not going to tell you why I thought it was credible. Not just because it was a police officer telling me that. There's other reasons to think that it was credible. I've heard those stories before, quite frankly. But when I heard it coming out of gallery night, I was disappointed. And then when I saw the aftermath of it, attacking the FOP as using it as a labor negotiating tactic, I was somewhat angry. And now I'm just really befuddled that we're still here talking about this at this late hour. But my vote tonight really is until this council gets additional staff and its own legal representation, I'm afraid of putting our powers under the charter in jeopardy. So I won't be supporting the main motion, and it hurts me to say that I'm not. Dr. Pratt, you've already spoken twice. Do you really feel compelled to speak again?
If, just a brief comment, I just want to.
Okay, but I need to ask council, is there any objection?
I object. And
Okay.
I like Megan.
Okay, well, you call a point of order then, and, okay,
Point of order.
okay. Well,
That's fine. I'll pass.
No, what we can do is have somebody move to waive the rules.
I'll be fine.
Waive the rules.
Okay, there's a motion,
Second.
there's a second, discussion. Please vote. Okay, and that passes, what is it, 6-2? Okay. Dr. Pratt.
I just wanted to briefly say, you explained your reasons for your vote tonight. My concern tonight is that I saw how the previous amendment went, and if this motion were to pass on that, it is made up of mostly leaving council members, and I think that it's important for this to be a vote not of a lame duck council, but of the new council, and so that explains my vote. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Geralds, I will need to ask for the same waiver of the rules.
If you allow me, you won't have to. I'm asking to be excused at this point. This is Thursday night, and there's another meeting, important meeting.
I understand, so let us
to
get
leave.
this vote out of the way then, okay?
Mr. President, you had promised me 15 more seconds.
15, I'm sorry, yes.
I was going to use some of that to respond to Mr. Gerald's comments, but after thinking about it and getting the Philly boy out of me, I decided they're not worth commenting on. I did this, I apologize because that's the right thing to do. If I ever unintentionally offended anybody, I would always apologize for that. Even some of the people in this room that have said vicious things about me over and over again and jumped to major conclusions. But most importantly, it was important to get the story out, the real story, on why such actions might have been taken. And at the end of the day, I hope we use this as a learning platform. Gallery night, the 5 to 9 part is great. The rest of the part needs to be fixed. And the city and the DIB need to work collaboratively
Yes.
To make that happen. It's a
Okay.
great event, and hopefully we can work together, and good should come out of this, not bad.
Okay, and thank you. And actually, that was the whole point of doing the fact-finding thing, was to get the story out there. And it was not to put
I
anybody
think
on
adults can
trial.
do that on their own, and I think I proved that.
Yes, okay, thanks.
Call the question.
Yes, sir. No need to, there's nobody else left to speak. Please vote.
Can we repeat the motion?
The motion is that regarding the October 19th, 2012 gallery night, City Council inquire into the actions of the Mayor Hayward as to interference with law enforcement per Pensacola Police Department union contracts, as well as Florida state law, and citations are made, requesting sworn statements in the form of subpoenas from the following individuals: Mayor Hayward, DIB member John Peacock, police chief sergeant in charge, and 11 officers hired by the DIB for the event. And as far as the amendment goes, please state that, Ms. Deweese.
We would strike in the form of subpoenas and include that the protections offered under state statute 112.532 subsection 5, protection from retaliation, be included. It's called retaliation for exercising rights.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, are we clear on that now? All right, thank you. Please vote. Okay, and that fails on a 3-5 vote. Okay, thank you. Yeah, John, good night, and thank you, sir.
Good night, all. Good night.
Okay, Committee of the Whole. These are items that, for one reason or the other, either did not pass unanimously or for some reason deserve to be voted on separately. Two of them, for example, there was supporting documentation that was missing, and that has now been supplied, and it'll just be up to the individual council members whether that information was sufficient or not. But the first item is retaining outside legal counsel when city attorney has conflict of interest. That city purchasing staff attend the next committee of the whole meeting on December 10th to brief council on options available to proceed with retaining professional services for outside legal counsel. Motion passed 7-1. Councilmember Spencer dissenting. Ms. Myers.
Do I need to make the motion again?
Somebody needs to, yes, somebody needs to move that, yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'll make a motion that at the next committee of the whole.
What, all you have to do is say, so moved.
So moved.
Yes, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Now can I speak to
Yes,
you?
ma'am.
I think that Mr. Messer has informed us on several occasions that we needed to think about having outside legal counsel at times when he has a conflict of interest. In the most recent memo he sent to us, he suggested regarding the gallery night incident that we obtain outside legal counsel regarding how to proceed on the course of action we had decided previously at the last Committee of the Whole meeting. So I'm going to support this motion that it be on the agenda for further action at the next Committee of the Whole, that we have someone from purchasing explain to us our different options of retaining outside counsel.
Okay, that motion's already in order, so, okay,
Well, I
thanks.
support the motion.
Okay, good, thanks.
I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Please vote. Okay, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. Property acquisition. Parcel X2424, Campus Heights subdivision. That City Council authorized the purchase of parcel X2424, parcel ID number 14 TAC 1 Sierra TAC 29 TAC 220 TAC 050 TAC 003 in the amount of $530,000 plus $20,000 for moving costs, reestablishment, incidentals, other payments in accordance with federal relocation guidelines, plus $10,810 for closing, miscellaneous cost, and legal fees, plus a 5% contingency in the amount of $28,040.50 for a total authorization of $588,850.50. Further, that appraisal documents be included as part of the official record and the seller provide documentation of all business conducted with the city for the past 5 years. That motion passed 6-0. Council members Pratt and Townsend absent for the vote.
Move the approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is council satisfied that the documentation they were asking for has been delivered? You don't have to respond to that, but I mean, if yes, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm the one that did question that, and I want to say that I'm going to support this and also the property acquisition after this one. I'm satisfied. I support the airport. I think we do a great job. It's a gem in our community. I hear great things about it, and I'm just looking forward to supporting the airport from here on out for at least the next 2 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Item C, property acquisition, A6101, D2550, S2588, and S2596, Campus Heights subdivision. The City Council authorized the purchase of parcel A6101, parcel ID number 14 TAC 1 Sierra TAC 29 TAC 2900 TAC 018 TAC 002 in the amount of $95,000 plus $60,000 for replacement housing, moving cost, reestablishment, incidentals, other payments in accordance with federal relocation guidelines, plus $3,542 for closing miscellaneous costs and legal fees, plus a 10% contingency in the amount of $15,854.20. In parcel D2550, parcel ID number 1 Sierra TAC 29 TAC 2103 TAC 000 TAC 002 in the amount of $83,000 plus $30,000 for relocation, moving cost, reestablishment, incidentals, other payments in accordance with federal relocation guidelines, plus $3,383 for closing miscellaneous costs and legal fees, plus a 10% contingency in the amount of $11,638.30. In parcel Sierra 2588, parcel ID number 141 TAC 1 Sierra TAC 29 TAC 200 TAC 012 TAC 002 in the amount of $80,000 plus $80,000 plus $85,000 for replacement housing, moving costs, reestablishment, incidental payments in accordance with federal relocation guidelines, plus $3,342 for closing miscellaneous cost and fees, plus a 10% contingency in the amount of $16,834.20. In parcel Sierra 2596, parcel ID number 14 TAC 1 Sierra TAC 29 TAC 200 TAC 016 TAC 002 in the amount of $69,000 plus $66,000 for replacement, housing, moving cost, reestablishment, incidentals, other payments in accordance with federal relocation guidelines, plus $3,210 for closing miscellaneous cost and legal fees, plus a 10% contingency in the amount of $13,821 for a total authorization of $639,624.70. Further, that appraisal documents be included as part of the official record. The motion passed at 7-0. Councilmember Pratt absent for the vote. What's your pleasure?
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion? Please vote. And that passes unanimously. And our final item, excuse me, item D, award of bid number 12, tag 044 Legion Field Resource Center. That City Council award a contract for the construction of the Legion Field Resource Center to A.E. New Jr., Pensacola, Florida, the lowest and most responsible bidder with a base bid amount of $2,597,000 plus bid alternates 4, 7, 8, 10, and 18 in the amount of $23,993 for a grand total of $2,620,993 plus a 5% contingency. Further, that City Council approved the supplemental budget resolution reallocating $250,000 from the 2017 general capital equipment within the Penny for Progress funds to provide sufficient funding for the Legion Field Resource Center. The motion passed 6-2. Members Myers and Pratt dissented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Dr. Pratt, Ms. Myers. Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to reiterate my objection. I voted in support of this project previously with the $3 million budget. It has now come in a $250,000 over budget, and I think that it's when that amount of money can be used for many good projects. I often think of Councilman Townsend's wish for a pool on the west side. I know we can't get a pool, that's a big one, but splash fields, other things, there are a lot of things that we could be doing on that side of town, and it's not clear to me that that extra $250,000 is going to make that much of an improvement on that project, that we couldn't find some better use of that money, particularly as it's the money from the fiscal year 2017, money that this council will never be responsible for. The next council won't even have that. And so I think it's irresponsible for us to go over budget by that significant of amount, and so I will oppose it tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Myers?
Yes, I won't support the motion either. I have consistently voiced my concerns and objections over moving the West Side Library. This money could be used to provide resources to keep the West Side Library, or at least some resources over there for the West Side community. So I will not be supporting this motion either.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Deweese?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to be reminded or have clarification on the $250,000 that we did move from 2017, what that is exactly impacting. I believe it was discussed when this originally was approved, but just so for the record, we know what's not being bought in 2017 in the general, or if it's truly just general and it wasn't allocated to anything.
Mr. Reynolds, do you have a recollection or have that before you?
I do not have that before me, but I can certainly provide that for council.
Well, it would probably needs to be provided before we vote on it, according to Ms. Deweese's question. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Council President and Ms. Deweese, I would like to say that that money was set aside by this council in the Penny for Progress for future capital general fund equipment. And based on the amount of dollars that we spend on capital equipment this year, and knowing that at some point an election will occur for that extension of the local option sales tax, which that money could be replenished if needed at that time from those funds, that those were the dollars that were needed to complete the project. And basically the $225,000 when discussed with Mr. Reynolds and the city engineer was to assure that they would have a 5% contingency in case something did occur. Of course, if those dollars are not needed, as Mr. Reynolds has stated, that he signs all the change orders and things that need to happen over the base bid, that those dollars would be restored to the 2017 capital equipment. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think I'm impelled to just make one statement. It's most frustrating every time that we try to bring something up on the west side of town. There's always some legitimacy of some excuse as to why we can't do this. You see money being diverted always to the east side, and there's no argument or no concerns about where the money is coming from. The Tryon branch, they added additional money for that elaborate playground that they have out there. Nothing was voiced about that. Nothing was voiced about the dog beach. Nothing was voiced about the dog pond. We're trying to have a quality building over here on the west side, and always some sort of legitimate reasons why we can't support it, and it's very disturbing. I hope, and I've been an advocate for the west side ever since I've been on this council, and it's always been a fight to try to get money diverted over there. The inequities that you see regarding all the playgrounds, all of the buildings, everything is very prevalent in this city. And I tell you, you folks, you really need to change your way of thinking as it relates to how you're going to have equity within this city. Now, Mr. Councilman Gerald voiced his opinion all the time about this, and it's true. It is true. The disparity that we have in this city is just too much, and one day is going to be a day of reckoning where we're going to have tremendous lawsuits regarding this inequities that we have here unless we don't change our way of thinking. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, sir. And certainly appreciate the way that you fought for this. You were fighting for it 6 years ago when I came on board, and you had claw and scratch to get what you got, and I don't think this is all you had hoped for. You didn't get your
take the bone away from it.
Well, you didn't get your swimming pool either.
No,
So-
dogs can swim, but we can't over here on the west side.
Right.
First time in years that we ever had never had a tennis court over here till we just got one. Never.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be named the Ronald Townsend Tennis
I
Court.
don't care what his name, but we got one.
Okay,
And
all right.
That's the point that I'm talking.
Okay, well, I will be supporting it, and thank you for your work on this, Mr. Townsend. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Please vote.
Oh, I meant to vote.
Okay. And that passes on a what?
Mistake.
6-1 vote.
God, me. It was, that was intervention.
I'm not going to
Do you-
ask for a
do you-
revote.
Okay,
I
all right.
mean, it wouldn't have made any
Okay.
difference.
She can't change it.
Listen,
I've been there too, Ms. Myers, so.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, you convinced me.
Okay. The next portion of this is going to be to Chairman of the CRA, Mr. Brian Spencer, and I may not have returned by the time he finishes, so I'm going to ask the Vice Chair to take it. I have something in the back I have to go tend to, so thank you.
I'm just giving the CRA report. Our previous, I have no documents in front of me at this time, but our CRA meeting did occur. The Tuesday approval of the October 22nd CRA board meeting minutes occurred, a unanimous vote, and the motion carried 7-0 with both Councilman Gerald's and Councilman Wu absent for that vote.
Thank you. The next thing is ordinance on the first reading. A, item A.
Item 14A is proposed ordinance number 26-12, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending the code of the City of Pensacola, Florida, amending provisions of the Deferred Retirement Option Plan, amending Section 9-9-4G for reducing interest earned percentage for the General Pension and Retirement Plan, amending Section 9-9-4H for not allowing cost of living increases for the General Pension and Retirement Plan, providing for applicability of ordinance, providing for severability, repealing clause, providing an effective date.
Move the approval.
What's your pleasure?
Second.
Did I get a second?
She moved it.
Please vote. Item B, 14B.
Hold on. Item 14B is proposed ordinance number 27-12, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending Section 12-12-7 of the Code of the City of Pensacola, Florida, amending license to use right-of-way regulations, providing for severability, repealing clause, providing an effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
What's your pleasure? Questions? Please vote. Item 14C.
Item 14C is proposed ordinance number 28-12, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance providing for the authorization and approval of the application of the municipal services taxing unit for library services within the city limits of the city of Pensacola, providing for severability, providing a repeal clause, providing an effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
Please vote. Ordinance on the second reading, item 15A.
Item 15A is proposed ordinance number 25-12, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending section 10-2-5 of the Code of the City of Pensacola, Florida, pertaining to a concession, lease, franchise, or other specific permission required for certain airport services, providing for the licensing and regulation of off-site airport parking lot facility operators, providing for airport parking lot facility revenue administration and collection, providing for severability, repealing clause, providing an effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
Please vote. Item 16, Resolution 16A.
Item 16A is resolution number 53-12, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution authorizing and making revisions and appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2012, providing for a retroactive effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
Please vote. Item 16B.
Item 16B is resolution number 54-12, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution authorizing and making revisions and appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2013, providing for an effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
Please vote. Item 16D.
Just a moment, just a moment. Yes, Councilmember Johnson. Ms. Myers.
Item 16, it's C or D?
16C.
C, okay.
Item 16C is resolution number 55-12, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pensacola recommending that Project Global be approved as a qualified target industry business pursuant to Section 288.106 Florida statutes, providing for a local match by the city in an amount not exceeding $168,000 as the City of Pensacola's portion of local participation in the Qualified Target Industry Tax Refund Program for fiscal years 2013 through 2017, providing for an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Item 16D.
Item 16D is resolution number 56-12, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pensacola recommending Project Connect be approved as a qualified target industry business pursuant to Section 288.106 Florida statutes, providing for a local match by the city in an amount not exceeding $20,000 as the City of Pensacola's portion of local participation in the Qualified Target Industry Tax Refund Program for fiscal years 2013 through 2015, providing for an effective date.
Move the approval. Second.
Please vote. Item 16E.
Item 16E is resolution number 57-12, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution authorizing and making revisions and appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2013, providing for an effective date.
Please vote.
We need a
Move to
motion and a
approve.
second.
Second.
Please vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your light. Councilwoman Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. I had forgotten that Ms. Myers was likely to vote no as well, and I was, when Mr. Johnson was absent, I was planning on encouraging you when this came up to ensure that Mr. Hall was back in the room for this vote, because I didn't want it to fail just for his absence. So I do move that we reconsider.
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Myers.
Yes. I just wanted someone to refresh my memory as to what the supplemental resolution is for Legion Field.
We're moving to reconsider.
Okay. Why is that?
Mr. Rent, what did you say?
Thank you. I made the motion to reconsider because Mr. Hall was absent for the vote, and I did not want the vote to fail just because of his absence. And so that's the issue, whether we should revote to allow Mr. Hall an opportunity to vote.
Okay, all in favor for the reconsideration, please vote.
Yeah, vote yes for me, please.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And what are we on?
Now you need to vote on this.
Okay.
16.
Okay. 16E, reconsideration.
Have we already voted?
Yes, we
voted on that.
voted
Okay.
to reconsider. It did
Right,
pass.
right, okay, so,
Now you need to vote.
Need to vote again.
okay,
Move
right.
for approval.
Second.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, and that passes 5-2. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pratt.
Yes.
Try to do the honorable thing.
That was very honorable, thank you. Okay, unfinished business. Oh, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sometime back, and this is really unfinished business, sometime back I had made an overture and made a request regarding the airport for smoking to be, containers to be placed across the street from the airport. I thought that had been done, but to my amazement, when I was out there maybe a week ago and went to go in the door, I almost passed out because of the secondary smoke and smoke. And I thought we had agreed that those containers would be placed not outside the door at the airport, but across the street over there in the other part, because in actuality, they might as well be smoking inside if they're going to have them where they are today. So I'm requesting that maybe we might want to look at that and see whether we can accomplish. I thought we had voted to do that 2 years ago, but obviously we hadn't.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. I was ready to say, I think that was even pre-me, but I will certainly get right on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Deweese?
I actually wanted to speak during new business. I apologize.
Okay, Ms. Myers?
Well, actually, I wanted to speak to Mr. Townsend's concern, but also bring up an issue under unfinished business. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I agree with Mr. Townsend, and so I think we need to do something about that. Anyway, under unfinished business, what I wanted to bring up is the motion Mr. Messer filed for attorney fees in the Occupy case. I want council to understand what's at issue here. This is, I read the judge's opinion or judgment for summary judgment. And I want the public to understand and council to understand, if you haven't read the opinion, that this is not a frivolous lawsuit. Both parties cannot always, never do win, unless they enter into a settlement agreement when it comes to lawsuits. And the fact that the judge did not rule in favor of the plaintiffs does not in any way mean that this is a frivolous lawsuit. The way I read the lawsuit is that the judge considered whether or not Section 8, TAC 1, TAC 7 of our city code, which prohibits the use of tents, was enforced selectively against the Occupy people. Now, if council remembers when this issue came up last year, I brought up the point that this ordinance was passed in 1968, the year that Dr. King set up the tent city in Washington, D.C., and that I believe that the sole purpose of council enacting this ordinance was to prevent a tent city from being set up in Pensacola, to protest or to bring attention to the plight of discrimination and poverty in the city of Pensacola. I disagree with the judge's finding, by the way, but that's really irrelevant here. What's relevant here is that we have citizens who are trying to redress their grievances to the government and to protect their First Amendment right to petition the government and to freedom of speech. And I think that their argument that the tent is an element of free speech has merit and is not a trivial matter. My concern with pursuing legal fees against these plaintiffs is that it will have a chilling effect on citizens who want to challenge the government in court for the purpose of protecting their First Amendment rights and any other rights a citizen may have regarding the government. I find this extremely disturbing that the city would pursue this. I would like to see, as quickly as possible, a list, a detailed accounting of all of the fees that Mr. Messer is asking the court to award. I think that I want to back up just for a minute. When we had this conversation last year regarding how Section 8, TAC 1, TAC 7 was being used, Mr. Reynolds said that it had not been enforced. It was only after Occupy Pensacola had filed their lawsuit claiming selective enforcement that they later learned through depositions and discovery that the city was then claiming that it had been enforced against homeless people who live in tents on Gilligan's Island. I don't know what evidence there is that that ordinance was enforced, but I do know over on Bruce Beach, the city knew for years that people lived in tents and other structures on Bruce Beach. I have been to Bruce Beach numerous times. And so the issue is, do we want a government that uses this kind of strong-arm tactics and hammer against citizens? And let me tell you, it's not easy to go to court. I discourage people from going to court as much as I can because, quite frankly, our judicial system is based on justice is basically a commodity. Lawyers are very expensive, and the average citizen does not have access to the courts because money stands in their way. It costs $450 just to file a pleading in federal court or in the state court here. $450. And attorneys' fees, in my opinion, are outrageous. That's why I wanted to be a legal aid attorney. I could not in good conscience
Mr.
charge
Myers,
people.
we've got to bring this in.
All right. I'm going to make a motion that we instruct the city attorney not to pursue filing attorney fees in this case.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any issues regarding the motion, but I just wanted to make a statement regarding attorney's fees as part of the judicial system to determine whether the cause of action is, as you well know, is frivolous or not. And I think maybe those kinds of things will be brought out when either entity will request attorney's fees to be made. The system will point out whether those attorney's fees will be awarded. I'd hate to go on record, and if you're just talking about this specific case, that's one thing, but I'd hate to go on record that attorney's fees will not be pursued on all the other cases, because that's in the system to protect folks from, protect any entity from putting in frivolous complaints.
And this only applies to this case.
It does not.
It only applies to, my motion only applies to this case.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Weiss.
No, I still want to speak during new business. That's all.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes. Mr. Spencer.
I love it when we get to put Mr. Messer on the spot, but I'm curious about certainly Councilwoman Meyer's motion and then the second by Councilwoman DeWeese, both who have retained Mr. McKenzie for their own counsel in this case. Just don't know if they need to divulge what sort of conflict is that. And I am showing my ignorance as a layperson, but I know that Councilwoman DeWeese, I know, has just filed suit using Mr. McKenzie as an attorney as well. So we've got a motion and a second. And Mr. Messer, if you'd like to weigh in on that.
I appreciate your kind invitation, Councilman Spencer, but I will decline to weigh in on that. Thank you.
Okay. But before I go to Mr. Reynolds, we've got three attorneys sitting over here, and Ms. Myers is certainly welcome to chime in on this, but I think you've already answered my question. I just want to make sure that the other two attorneys sitting up here help make sure that I've got a clear mind to vote with. One, Mr. Townsend brought up a good point. It is, if this is a frivolous suit, then the judge will rule it as such. And if it's not, he will rule it as such. So even if this goes forward, there's no indication that the plaintiffs will be held for our attorney's fees. And so based on that, I just think it sets a bad precedent. I mean, even if it's just for this one particular suit, and don't even want to bring Ms. DeWeese's motion into it, and think she can vote on it clear conscience with no conflict. But anyway, it seems like that's a decision for the judge. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
Okay, but
I agree with
the
everything.
judge will make a decision on whether it's
Yes, sir.
frivolous or not.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
it's not a slam dunk on the city's part that they're, Ms. Beard and Mr. Kimbrell and Mr. Paul are going to be held liable for the attorney fees, but that's a decision for the judge, right?
Yes, sir. It's a judicial determination by Judge Vincent based on the record and the motion that was filed by myself on behalf of the city and the response that my adversary cares to make.
Okay, and Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much. This reminds me of a conversation that I got in the very tail end of many months ago. It was, I won't mention the attorney's name, but it's a very famous local attorney here. He has a TV show that's on UWF. I was attacked on it last night by a local, well, anyhow, I don't know what you would call this person, but the discussion was between my girlfriend's boss and this very well-known attorney, and it was brought up an issue in Europe when a side loses in a lawsuit that they're responsible for attorney fees. They have a lot less lawsuits in Europe. The point that I think that I would like to see this is work its way through the court system. I just am not ready to burden the taxpayers right now. I understand Ms. Meyer's comments, and I do appreciate them, well received, but I'd like to see this just played out in court. I'm just not a judge. I'm not an attorney. I do understand her comments, and I do appreciate them, but I'd like to see this played out. And again, it's just an interesting thing that I just, a few months ago, this conversation come up, and that it was mentioned in Europe, the losing side pays the attorney fees. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just really quickly, I wanted to remind council that this was a lawsuit that was brought against the city. It was not the city that did the suing. It was decided upon essentially on the motion that was put forward by the city attorney without going to trial, meaning that the judge determined that there was no way for Occupy to win this lawsuit. If there was, it would have went to trial. We have a responsibility, I have a responsibility, when it comes to taxpayer dollars to ensure that if there is something that's frivolous, or we can even look at it might be frivolous, we need to affirmatively look at attorney's fees in this case. If this had gone to trial and there had been a decision on the merits and the evidence presented in a trial, that's a different story. But this was a summary judgment motion basically on the pleadings. And so that's pretty clear cut from administration's position in regards to whether or not we need to move forward and seek attorney's fees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I believe earlier Ms. Myers questioned how much had been spent and the whole cost. And I want to remind council that the attorney for the plaintiffs stated that the clients did not have the ability to give any money. So we're going to spend money to go after a judgment that says that these people shouldn't have sued us, but we aren't going to get any money to pay for it anyway. So we're going to spend more money to be told that we shouldn't have done it, if in fact that is what is found. And meanwhile, we have an appeal process that moves forward, which we're going to be paying the attorney for again. So I'm questioning, with this great concern about the time and the money of the taxpayers being wasted to even look at the whole issue about the police, why are we so willing to spend the legal money to go after money that we can't collect? I mean, I am trying to understand why you folks would feel it's a prudent use of city money to try to collect from a turnip. That's what I am hearing you say. We need to go after the money, which isn't there. So I don't think it's the wisest move. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought I buzzed in earlier, but I guess I didn't. I was just going to comment that I won't be supporting this tonight. I know a long time ago, Mr. Garza had told me that about 10% of their time is spent chasing after claims against the city. And I know that there's merit to most of the lawsuits, but I do think that the city needs to have a process in place and just keep with it. I would appreciate, if this motion fails tonight, if Mr. Messer would give us an explanation of what we should expect in this process. I luckily never really had to go to court, so I don't really know how all of this works. But an explanation would be valuable, and based on that, I might change my opinion, but I need to know more information. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds?
Nothing further, Mr. President, thank you.
Let's see. Mr. Spencer, have you already spoken on this issue?
I've spoken only once.
Okay. Ms. Myers?
Well, as far as the conflict of interest, I don't have a conflict of interest. Just because Mr. McKenzie also happens to be my attorney, I think everybody in town by now should know that he represents me in a lawsuit against the mayor or the mayor's office. And my primary concern here is that the court has not held that this is a frivolous lawsuit. There are penalties for filing frivolous lawsuits. There are very high penalties for filing frivolous lawsuits. And the court has not held that this is a frivolous lawsuit. A summary judgment is not an indication that a suit is frivolous. So my main concern is that the citizens, that there is not a chilling effect on citizens who wish to challenge their government in the area of free speech. And so that's why I made the motion, and I'm saddened that council will not support the motion, it appears, but I can go home tonight knowing that I've done my best to protect the citizens, regardless of their economic standing in life, that they can challenge their big government. Thank you.
Mr. Spencer?
I just want to point out, I believe, certainly I respect Ms. Dubuisson very much, and we agree to disagree. I think that the attorney's time to file basically a motion for this case for recouping our fees is maybe very minimal. So that cost, I just want to point out to council members, could be the sum of 2 hours of attorney's time.
Okay. Is it?
Yep.
Okay. I'm thinking, is there anyone else?
Mr. President?
Yes.
My light is on.
Okay, but for new business, right?
Well, for this now.
Oh, okay.
Because it just stayed on. Thank you, Mr. President. And I just needed clarification on two things that, and the mayor may not be available. If this is normal to do this action in the process, and also if a judge would have the opportunity to reduce the fees being sought from someone later on in this process. And I'd like clarification on those two things, if available.
Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. On point number one, I believe it more probable than not that the successful litigant would pursue as a normal course of action the fees they expended in the case against the party that was unsuccessful, because that simply makes good business sense. As to number two, the answer is yes. If in fact the judge finds an entitlement to attorney's fees, then the judge will very carefully peruse the attorney fee records and determine whether the attorney's fees were both reasonable and necessary before the judge imposes the fees.
Okay.
Thank you. And vice this failing tonight, this could possibly be brought up later in this process for the citizens that are concerned about redressing their government. So I'm going to withdraw my second at this point. No offense meant to Ms. Myers, simply to preserve the opportunity for her to bring this back at a later date. So I withdraw my second.
All right. Ms. Myers.
And I appreciate Councilwoman DeWeese's consideration of the future of this issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Ms. DeWeese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, new business. I just wanted to enter some information into the record and share it with the clerk, so you have a record of it as council. Some questions that I had asked of Mr. David Lister and his work that he'll be doing for the city this year. And I just wanted to ensure that you have a copy since I'm departing from council.
Okay,
And I will do
great.
it at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Or unless you need me to
Well,
do
no,
that.
let's just go ahead and,
Okay.
but let's vote on that, okay?
Okay.
And so you have a motion. Is there a second?
What's the motion?
What's the motion?
The motion is to enter response from David Lister.
No, and information I forwarded to him.
Oh, okay.
Well, now who is David Lister?
With Salt Marsh, Cleveland, and Gunn.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's the auditors.
We have to vote on
I don't think we have to vote on it.
We don't? Well, if we want it to become part of the official record,
Okay, I move that,
no?
okay.
Okay.
I don't know what.
I've got the mayor's seat over there shaking his head, so,
Oh,
okay,
it's not in regards to this, Mr. President.
okay. All right,
It's not in regards to this.
okay. Okay. I would prefer if you did that.
And it doesn't have to be, I just want you to have access to a complete record of it, so I'm just sharing it to ensure that
Madam
you
Clerk,
have it.
Do you need a motion to do that?
Once it's given to me, it's public record.
It would be
Okay,
like a
anyway.
petition or something else. I'm
Okay,
just making
and
sure
when it
you have
goes to
your
you,
copy.
then it eventually will be available electronically too, right?
Yes, if you want me to send it to all members of council, we can do that.
Okay, is that what you'd like?
If you want, it's just going to be available. I wanted you to ensure that you had it, since I
Okay.
won't be here anymore.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just
All
didn't want
done?
you to get lost, okay?
It
And I
won't.
know Miss, not suggesting that you will do that, Madam Clerk. You're wonderful and beautiful and.
We're not.
Anyway,
You
so
don't need
it's
to vote.
just-
You thought you
okay.
did.
Okay, kumbaya. All right. But thank you. All right, any more new business? Mr. Spencer?
Yes, Mr. President, I don't know if this would be the appropriate time to seek, although there will be a transfer of presidency, but the reverse angle parking issue, I would like for the council to weigh in, so perhaps that can be an agenda item that we can actually
For the
take
next
action
committee of the whole?
at the next committee of the whole.
Okay.
And that may be just the council's vote that would then be taken to the DIB.
Okay, that's your motion.
That is my motion.
There's a second. Discussion on that, Mr. Weiss?
I just had a question, if we would obviously allow the DIB to be informed of what the agenda item is and make sure that they had ample opportunity to come and discuss it. I know there was considerable briefing on the logic of it, so I just would like to make sure that's part of the motion, that they be included in that original discussion.
Yes, I think.
Okay, yes. And Dr. Pratt, your light's on, was it for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask the maker of the motion to have pity on whomever is the next president,
Mhm.
and possibly ask for it to be on a January meeting. We've lived through the parking issue for a while. I think that'll be easier. I mean, it's going to be possibly issues with it. I just think that would make it less painful. Thank you.
Is that, you want it in the December meeting or the January meeting?
I defer to Councilwoman Pratt's sympathetic heart.
Okay, so that would be the January meeting then. Ms. Dubuisson?
And I thank Mr. Spencer for bringing it up following the petition that was delivered today after it was solicited by Mr. Spencer through the businesses on the street who were impacted. I think it was a very good way of getting the concerns of the citizens brought forward. I would, however, like to encourage council to look at the entity that is ultimately going to have to handle this and see if perhaps the petition should be immediately forwarded to the DIB for discussion. It may turn out that council would not have to have a lot of public deliberation if in fact the DIB received a copy of a formal petition. I know that they have received individually singular phone calls, but the number that was quoted tonight as being part of the petition I think might be an eye-opening number for the Parking and Traffic Committee to then make a recommendation to the board, and it might not be that the city council would have to come in and weigh in if that information were run through the channel that has been established. So I just would like to encourage council to send a copy of the petition with a request for comment in advance and see if any action is taken prior to your having to spend hours with all the citizens coming in to give their opinion. Thank you.
Someone would offer that as a friendly amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Ms.
Okay.
Myers?
You guys?
Ms. Myers?
Oh.
Ms. Deweese?
Ms. Deweese, yes.
Is that it?
Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, so, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you, and perhaps I jumped the gun, but I do want to make something perfectly clear. I do not know where Ms. Dubuisson heard I solicited those petitions. In fact, they were placed, I happened to go with my mother to the audiologist, and those store owners and Smiths and others have said they were trying to figure out what to do. And again, perhaps I jumped the gun, but those store owners, I've had 3 tell me that they tried to get petitions to make it to some level of, to gain attention and gain traction. And so I was hoping that, certainly I didn't expect the council, as I know the council cannot take action of that sort, but felt that since the council was dragged back in very much into the other discussion, that they would at least be made aware of it. So no intentional harm meant on my part at all.
None spoken, and perhaps the word solicit, I didn't mean that you had individually gone and collected the signatures, but that you had guided the business owners. I spoke with one of the business owners last week on a totally different topic regarding access to parking and all, and he told me that you were guiding them through a process to bring it to council, that was your advice to them, was to bring it to council. And I understand that was your advice to them, and the only reason I rose to speak is that I do believe it will ultimately have to go back to the DIB, and I would have thought that with you being a board member, that would have been the first line of attack. So if we can agree to disagree on the process that was in place, I did not mean to imply that you had personally solicited the signatures, but that you had solicited the process of the signatures, was what the gentleman explained to me you were guiding them. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We're in open forum now, and I just wanted to share something. There was an attorney today. He and I didn't want to bring this up during the debate on Fraternal Order Police's request.
Council
Yes.
President, I'm sorry, but before you, there is an item.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we need to take care of that. It got onto the consent agenda. We should have put it on the committee of the whole, because Mr. Spencer has to abstain from one of the votes. It's item K from the consent agenda. Airport, approval of amendment number 2 to Air Rose LLC lease and operating agreement. At the request of the tenant, staff requests that City Council consider for approval the amendment number 2 to Air Rose LLC lease and operating agreement at the Pensacola International Airport. Note that as a result of the receipt of a Part 16 complaint filed by Pensacola Aviation Center, City Attorney has raised concerns regarding unknown civil liability consequences that may flow to the city given a reversal of the decision of the Federal Aviation Administration hearing. What's your pleasure?
Move the approval.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. And that had passed unanimously with Mr. Spencer abstaining. And please, Mr. Spencer.
And as I had to abstain at the committee of the whole meeting, I will need to abstain from this voting on this matter tonight.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Is that it?
I think that's everybody.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
everybody.
That passes unanimously with Mr. Spencer abstaining. Thank you. Yeah, this is my response to an email I got from a local city attorney. Not city attorney, I'm sorry, an attorney in the city. That's right. And he was asking us to dial back the dialogue on the FOP, and he gave out, a suggestion of what we should do. His understanding of what had happened, he'd gotten from the press, and not the legitimate press, but the yellow journalist press that exists out there. And I told him, I said, I agree with you. And believe it or not, despite this is how it's being spun, the council officially voted only for a fact-finding mission. That very well could end after having sworn statements from 2 or 3 police officers, if that investigation even continues. And so I said, I know there's people waving the bloody shirts out there, but that's not my issue. That's not what I'm moved by. And I said, for most of us on council, this has been a very, very painful process to go through. And I furthermore said, my loyalty to the mayor has been challenged in this issue alone because of credible statements made by our men and women in blue. They feel like they've been compromised, and I believe they truly have. Besides, all video evidence I reviewed indicates nothing but proper behavior from the members of the Pensacola Police Department. So despite my loyalty to and personal affection for Ashton, and I did call him Ashton, I have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the PPD's independence. I said, look, the mayor was indiscreet with his behavior. Any problem he had with how the police conducted themselves, Chip Simmons was just a phone call away. Praise in public, chastise in private. Said, moreover, he mismanaged the aftermath by attacking the union. I assure you this was no bargaining tactic on the FOP's behalf. If anything, the mayor, and then I put in parentheses, Asmar, is guilty using it for bargaining purposes himself. This next part I share with you because I'm not even going to go into that part of it. But the story was framed by an individual off the 7th floor here at City Hall. I'm not going to mention his name. And what I consider what's now a disreputable journalist. And he never praises anybody without vilifying someone else. And let me just give you some examples. Praise Lou Timothy May, vilify Malcolm Thomas. Praise Mort O'Sullivan, vilify Gene Valentino. Praise libraries, vilify Randy Oliver. But praise Randy Oliver, vilify Gene Valentino. Praise Grover Robinson, but vilify Wilson Robertson. But praise Wilson Robertson while vilifying Mike Whitehead. Praise Penn Airedale, vilify Larry Johnson. Praise Mayor Hayward, vilify City Council. Praise Mayor Hayward, vilify Pensacola Police Department. Praise Mayor Hayward, vilify DIB. Praise John Asmar, vilify Deborah Dunlap. Yada, yada, yada. And I said, this yellow journalism is not productive toward community building. Indeed, it's divisive. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Myers. Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, wow, I'm so proud of you, President Hall. Those very well written, very well spoken. I appreciate that. I had alluded to this individual earlier, and I really believe that his journalistic credibility is wavering in this community. I truly believe that he has been exposed for an agenda that he shares with another individual on this 7th floor. I have been attacked over and over. I was attacked again today. I was attacked last night on TV. There seems to be an agenda to drive a wedge between the mayor and me. They've been, it's not as, well, I'll just leave that alone, but it's repulsive. If this individual in that paper was the only source of information, a company that's outside of the city of Pensacola that's looking to relocate in this community, if that's the only publication that they read, I feel sorry for our community. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's agenda-driven. His journalistic credibility, I believe, has wavered in this community to a point where everyone knows the only way you get good press there is if you buy advertising in that paper, or if you're one of the chosen ones that will never receive bad press. I have been the victim of this for months, a beatdown. You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but I was moved by what you said, President Hall, and it's got to stop. It's just, but I don't think it will. You know, maybe I just need to do some more advertising in that paper, and I'll be left alone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
at the risk of being accused of infringing on the First Amendment rights, I want to discharge my legal duty to the entity, and I'm not trying to do anything more than advise you as your city attorney that there are potential issues raised concerning violations of law that occur when public officials step outside their official roles and act as individuals making statements as individuals instead of the entity. So again,
I can assure you, Mr. Attorney, I'm doing this as my official role.
Okay.
This is not Citizen Sam Hall doing it.
Okay. Well, I apologize if I intruded unnecessarily, but I don't want anyone to think that I sat there and didn't advise.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Myers.
President Hall, I think this is one of your finest hours. I really do. I'm really proud of you because you have expressed the concerns of many people. But I also have the same concerns about the Pensacola News Journal's editorial board. Their constant vilification of the city council, I think, does not help the image of this city. They have referred to me as a bomb thrower. That doesn't help. They've used the word extortion, referring to the Board of County Commissioners. And yet they do editorials decrying mudslinging when they do a lot of mudslinging, especially toward this city council. And I just wish that both newspapers would act differently and more objective.
Dial it back.
Dial it back. And this council has a very difficult job to do, and we're trying to do the best we can do, every one of us, even though we may not agree with each other all the time. I respect every member of this city council, and it really saddens me to see how the press, the two newspapers, beat up on certain city council members and the council at large. So I just want to tell you that I appreciate your remarks, and I just want to thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one other thing, the other thing that I'd like to say that I think, and I'm going to say this, Mr. Messer, and tell me if I'm okay saying this, but I want to notice hypocrisy. There seems to be hypocrisy. There's written about public hangings are allowed, but yet I'm publicly hung every week. There's hypocrisy here, and it's disturbing. It's very, very disturbing. I caution the new council people, I see two of them in the audience tonight. I caution them to when you step over a line, when you don't rubber stamp something, be ready. Be ready, because you'll be beat up. And it's a sad day. It's a very sad day. And I felt compelled to say that. You know, I've been called many things, and to even repeat them is hurtful to me. But I just hope for a better day. There is forgiveness in my heart somewhere deep down in it, even though I've been publicly hung often. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're adjourned.